Chapter 473, Emerald Glazed Flame. A green light lit up the entire dark underground cave as scorching heat seeped out from the giant green gemstone. The metal armor flaming scorpion glanced at the young man beside it in astonishment. He didn't get affected by this scorching heat at all, remaining calm as if he were in his backyard. It was a little stunned. This young man didn't look like a simple person. However, after sensing it personally at a close distance, it realized that the aura from this human was only at the 8-star soldier level. He wasn't at the general stage. Could it be that the frightening female devil was honestly exhausted? This young man's punch was the last straw that broke the camel's back. The metal armor flaming scorpion glanced at Wang Teng again with a meaningful gaze. Wang Teng was sizing up the green crystal. He racked his brain and finally found the information on this crystal. Green glazed flame. Or you could call it the emerald glazed flame. This was a magical flame that was born from the essence of the world. It took many years to form and only had a small chance of success. In summary, the fire essence of the world had coincidentally merged into the or under special circumstances and turned into the green crystal now. The temperature inside the crystal was extremely high, but it was hard for it to combust spontaneously. As more and more fire essence merged into the crystal, after many years, the essence compressed, congregated, tempered, and underwent many complicated processes. The heat inside reached a new high, and finally, a beautiful flame appeared deep in the crystal. The flame was green and hot, its power unpredictable. Rumor had it that it had the power to burn everything. However, it was constricted by the green crystal and would remain imprisoned unless the crystal cracked. This was the origin of the emerald glazed flame. The memory fragment Wang Teng received from a certain alchemist allowed him to recognize the object in front. The alchemists and the blacksmiths were probably the people with the most knowledge of flames. Some flames allowed them to yield twice the result with half the effort when they were making darns or forging. Hence, they scrambled to find all sorts of strange flames. Unfortunately, this emerald glazed flame was extremely rare as it was formed naturally by this world. Up until today, only one alchemist from the Xingwu continent had found an emerald-glazed flame thousands of years ago. He recorded it down, and this was how the later generations found it in the ancient books. There were other types of flames too, but they were all rare and would only appear in the world once every 1,000 years. The special flames most alchemists and blacksmiths sought were beast flames that possessed certain special traits or lava flames that had a higher temperature. They were unique, but compared to divine flames like the emerald-glazed flame, they were nothing. Wang Teng's eyes grew brighter. He was getting excited. This metal armor flaming scorpion didn't know that it was sitting on a treasure. The green flame outside was just a small wisp of the original. The real emerald-glazed flame must be in this emerald. Hence, he looked down on the scorpion. It took the coin and gave up on the gold. But thinking about it, there was nothing the metal armor flaming scorpion could do about this emerald. If not, it would have already broken it to take a look inside. It wouldn't have remained in one piece. If it had obtained the real emerald-glazed flame, Wang Teng wouldn't be needed. After all, one small wisp of flame was enough for it to advance to the Lord level and see extreme growth in its strength. If it had gotten the main body of the emerald-glazed flame, it would have become indomitable. Of course, this might be the reason why news of the emerald-glazed flame didn't leak out. Young martial warrior, the source of the green flame is in this emerald. Go and absorb it. The metal armor flaming scorpion's voice was heard at this moment. Wang Teng sneered in his heart. On the surface, he nodded without saying anything and walked step by step towards the emerald. He knew that the metal armor flaming scorpion wouldn't be honest. If he hadn't recognized the emerald-glazed flame, he wouldn't have guessed the scorpion's thoughts. However, he knew how to absorb the emerald-glazed flame, so he understood what the metal armor flaming scorpion was thinking. If he touched the emerald recklessly and tried to absorb the flame, the fire essence accumulated in the emerald would explode on the spot. One careless move and he might turn into ashes. The metal armor flaming scorpion must have suffered the same torment before. It was lucky to be still alive. Wang Teng arrived in front of the emerald as his mind wandered off. He looked up. It was a majestic sight. The emerald was massive. It was etched into the stone walls with a huge portion of it still buried underground. He didn't know how big it was exactly. He wondered how long it took to form a flame of this size. Wang Teng couldn't help but exclaim how mysterious the world was. Even though he was stronger than normal people, he still felt small and insignificant in front of this majestic presence. The arrogance he had built up recently disappeared again. He should remain humble. He took a deep breath and prepared the spiritual power in the depth of his mind. As he placed his hand on the emerald, his spiritual power surged out and spread into the emerald. Wang Teng knew 3 ways of absorbing the emerald-glazed flame. 2 of the methods required external power and had a higher risk. A wrong move would cause a backlash. One of the reasons why special flames were rarely made known to the public was because they were extremely hard to subdue. Many formidable warriors had died while subduing the flames. They were burnt into ashes. Also, these formidable warriors would not spread the information of the flames after they found it. Hence, once they died, the news would get buried along with their disappearance. This caused the flames to become even more secretive. Besides the first 2 methods, there was another safer way of subduing the flame. Of course, it was only safer in comparison. The risk was still high. The last method was to use powerful spiritual power to control the flame and suck it into one's body. Controlling the flame required spiritual power. Alchemists and blacksmiths used the invisible spiritual power to control the intensity of the flame to have the effect they wanted. Spiritual kinesis was the objectification of spiritual power. When talking about controlling, it might be more convenient than directly using spiritual power. Hence, the risk of using spiritual kinesis to subdue the flame was comparatively lower. The stronger your spiritual kinesis, the lower the risk. Of course, only divine spirit masters were able to use this cheating method. Others wouldn't need to think about it at all. Fortunately, Wang Ting's spiritual kinesis was powerful. Chapter 474, Rough Operation. Wang Ting stood in front of the emerald, tall and silent. He closed his eyes and pushed his spiritual kinesis into the emerald slowly. He wrapped his spiritual kinesis around his hand to prevent himself from getting burnt by the temperature inside. At the same time, the spiritual kinesis seeped into the crystal gradually. As his spiritual kinesis entered, Wang Ting sensed a mystical world. He felt as if he was immersed in fire. He was surrounded by extremely thick fire essence that had congregated into green flames. These strands of fire essence were burning his spiritual kinesis. Wang Ting frowned. He sensed his spiritual kinesis getting exhausted quickly. If this continued, he would be wasting his effort even if he had a large reserve of spiritual kinesis. The next moment, he gritted his teeth and the speed of his spiritual kinesis increased exponentially. It shot right into the depth of the emerald like an arrow released from its bow. There was a ball of flame possessing the highest temperature in the emerald. Wang Ting could feel it. It was faintly spreading its heat deep inside the crystal. This saved him time in searching. Without a doubt, this hottest ball of flame was the emerald-glazed flame. However, as he delved deeper, the temperature got higher and his spiritual kinesis was consumed faster. Wang Ting furrowed his brows tightly. He increased the intensity of his spiritual kinesis. There was only one chance. It wasn't safe to leave the emerald-glazed flame here as other people might get to it. Hence, he took this as his last throw and pushed out all his Emperor Realm spiritual kinesis. Roar! It felt as if the giant dragon entrenched in his mind had suddenly woken up. Finally, through his spiritual kinesis, Wang Ting saw a dazzling green flame as beautiful as an emerald floating quietly not far ahead. Wang Ting stopped breathing in awe, but he didn't hesitate. There was nothing to hesitate about. No techniques were required to subdue the flame with his spiritual kinesis. He just needed to do it. Under Wang Ting's control, his spiritual kinesis started congregating and turned into a huge net, wrapping around the flame. If those people who subdued such rare flames in the past knew how rough he was, they might stand up in their graves. Mind you, when they were taking the flames, they were extremely careful. They used all sorts of methods to lower the risk until they found it appropriate to make their moves. No one pounced on the flame like Wang Ting. The emerald-glazed flame started resisting when it felt the invasion of an external force. The green flames grew bigger and brighter. It wanted to break through the imprisonment of the spiritual kinesis and its control. Wang Ting's face turned slightly pale. He condensed his spiritual kinesis and formed multiple needles to stab into the emerald-glazed flame. They were aimed right at its core. Both parties were at a standstill. For a moment, no one had the upper hand. Outside, the metal armor flaming scorpion was observing Wang Ting. When it noticed that he didn't receive any backlash, it felt puzzled. Could it be that he hadn't started absorbing it? Why wasn't he having any reaction? Was he waiting for it to move? An idea flashed in the metal armor flaming scorpion's mind. The more it thought about this, the more it felt this way. Cunning human. Humans are all bad. This white face was probably fake. Did he think that it couldn't see through his exaggerated acting skill? The metal armor flaming scorpion complained in contempt as it thought to itself. I don't believe that you won't get enticed by the green flame. The moment you absorb it, you will die. I can afford to wait. It sucked the fire force in its surroundings to heal its injuries as it patiently waited at the side. Ah! After some time, Wang Ting suddenly screamed in agony and vomited a mouth of blood. The metal armor flaming scorpion's eyes lit up. It laughed loudly and sprung up to crawl towards Wang Ting. It said delightedly, "Human, you fell into my trap and received the backlash from the green flame. You won't be able to recover any time soon. You're dead." Wang Ting clutched his chest and seemed terrified. He pointed at the metal armor flaming scorpion with trembling fingers. Despicable. H, you took advantage of me and wanted to snatch my treasure. Humans are all lying bastards. The metal armor flaming scorpion snorted. Bullshit, you were the one who gave it to me. I only accepted it because I found you pitiful. Yet, you're hurting me now. Shameless. Wang Ting snapped back. Nonsense. I gave you the treasure because I was heavily injured. I was afraid you would attack me. The metal armor flaming scorpion turned angry from embarrassment. H, so it's my fault? Wang Ting mocked. Stop wasting time. Humans and star beasts are natural enemies. I'll eat you up today. Human flesh and blood is a tonic to me. The metal armor flaming scorpion gave a blood-curdling smile. Don't come near me. Wang Ting seemed appalled. He kept retreating, trying to distance himself from the scorpion. Stop defending. I'll give you a quick death. You won't be able to survive today. The metal armor flaming scorpion's voice was indifferent. We can discuss. I can give you anything as long as you spare me. Wang Ting's voice was trembling. There's nothing to discuss. After I eat you, your things will be mine. The metal armor flaming scorpion wasn't moved. It dashed forward and smashed its huge pincers on Wang Ting's head. Sigh. At this moment, Wang Ting sighed. Why do you have to do this? The fear on his face disappeared without a trace, replaced by a cold smile. At the same time, he raised his hand, and a green flame blossomed like the most beautiful flower on earth. Scorching heat swept through the underground cave. The metal armor flaming scorpion was the first to get affected. The blazing heat was about to melt it, but the young human in front of it was calmly holding the flame. He wasn't the least bit affected. Impossible. The scorpion exclaimed in disbelief. There was a tinge of obvious fear in its voice. How's my acting? Wang Ting chuckled. The metal armor flaming scorpion. Damn it, humans are all unscrupulous. This young man is exceptionally sly. Noticing its silence, Wang Ting shook his head and said, At first, I wanted to spare your life, but now, there's no need to consider it. As he spoke, he curled his fingers slightly, preparing to flick the flame at the metal armor flaming scorpion. The metal armor flaming scorpion squinted and shouted in fear, Wait. What else do you have to say? Wang Ting paused before asking. Let me go, and I'll give you all my treasures. I've collected many rare ores and spiritual things in these few years, the metal armor flaming scorpion said hurriedly. After I kill you, your things will be mine. Wang Ting threw its words back at it. The metal armor flaming scorpion's face turned green. It looks like you have nothing to convince me otherwise. Wang Ting shook his head in regret. Then, he continued his attack. Stop, I can recognize you as my master. The metal armor flaming scorpion took much courage to make this decision. It was hesitant, but it still shouted loudly. It knew that it had no other choice. After this young human received the green flame, it felt a huge threat from him. This green flame was more frightening than the green flame it had absorbed. It was afraid that once it touched the flame, it would be burned into ashes. It knew clearly how powerful the green flame was. Recognize me as your master? Wang Ting tilted his head and looked at it. A smile appeared at the edge of his lips. Chapter 475, Return to the battlefield. Wang Ting sized up the metal armor flaming scorpion with interest and touched his chin. He was surprised by its suggestion. The metal armor flaming scorpion was a Lord-level star beast. Yet, it was frightened of death and was willing to acknowledge him as its master to survive. However, to Wang Ting, it wasn't bad to have a Lord-level spiritual pet. This metal armor flaming scorpion had undergone a mutation due to the emerald glazed flame. Hence, its potential wasn't low. Furthermore, he had gotten his hands on the true form of the emerald glazed flame. He could use it on the scorpion and improve its level. Of course, it would need to perform well if it wanted to obtain benefits from him. After thinking it through, Wang Ting looked at the nervous metal armor flaming scorpion and opened his mouth, his expression nonchalant. Give me your spiritual flame, and I'll spare your life. The spiritual flame was the spirit core of all living creatures. General stage martial warriors or Lord-level star beasts could feel the presence of their spiritual flame. Handing it over meant they were passing their lives to others. Compared to the spiritual pet contract, this method was much more direct. The one who handed over its spiritual flame would forever be a slave of the other. As expected, when the metal armor flaming scorpion heard Wang Ting asking for its spiritual flame, its heart stopped beating. It fell into a dilemma again. It had toiled hard to become a Lord-level star beast because it wanted to control its own fate. It was hard for it to stomach the thought of a human determining its actions in the future. But if it didn't hand it over, it would die. Wang Ting stared at the scorpion in silence. If it didn't relinquish its spiritual flame to him, he wouldn't be able to trust this star beast. In that case, he would have no choice but to kill it. The metal armor flaming scorpion also understood this. It hesitated because it was unwilling. Within a few seconds, it made its decision. A ball of murky flame floated out of its head. This matter had no shape or color. It couldn't be seen or touched. You could only use your spiritual power to sense it. Wang Ting released his spiritual kinesis and swallowed this ball of matter. Then, his spiritual kinesis shrunk back into his forehead. The metal armor flaming scorpion shuddered. It seemed to have suffered a serious injury and turned dispirited instantly. It laid on the ground weakly. Wang Ting glanced at it and said, "Stay here and heal your injury. Keep a watch over the emerald. Wait for me to come back." "I know." The metal armor flaming scorpion glanced at him with a complicated expression before lowering its head. "Since you have acknowledged me as your master, I won't beat around the bush. If you are obedient, you will get your fair share of benefits. I've obtained the emerald glazed flame, so you can think about this carefully." Wang Ting didn't explain thoroughly. He turned and left. The green flame is called the emerald glazed flame. This fellow knew what it was. No wonder he is able to subdue it. The metal armor flaming scorpion's eyes flickered. At the same time, it understood that if it could use the green flame for its cultivation, it could take another step forward. "Oh right, I have another spiritual pet that needs this green flame. I'll ask it to absorb the green flame later. Don't treat it as an intruder." Wang Ting turned back after taking a few steps. The metal armor flaming scorpion felt bitter. The main flame was gone, and he wasn't even given the small one. This fellow must be his natural enemy. And he already had a spiritual pet. It looked like his spiritual pet life wouldn't be easy. Wang Ting ignored the metal armor flaming scorpion and returned to the ground. It called Little White over and let it absorb the small flame. Initially, Wang Ting's target was the small flame. He didn't know that there was something better underneath. The metal armor flaming scorpion tried to act smart by luring him underground to kill him. In the end, it sent the emerald-glazed flame straight into his arms. Hence, Wang Ting didn't want the small flame anymore. But to Little White, this small flame was a rare item. Through the spiritual pet contract, Wang Ting understood why Little White had such a strong yearning towards the green flame. Once it absorbed the green flame, it would be able to activate the ghost fire talent in its body, giving it stronger attacking power. Wang Ting was delighted to see this. He patted Little White's head and said, "Go ahead and absorb it. I need to hurry back to help them." "Caw." Little White cawed at him worriedly. "Don't worry. You won't die." Wang Ting told Little White the scorpion's identity. He asked the crow to stay here obediently and wait for its talent to awaken. Then, he rose into the air and disappeared into the horizon. Little White looked in his direction. After some time, it came beside the green flame and started absorbing it. Wang Ting flew quickly in the air, hurrying towards Star Maple City. He had wasted too much time here. He wished that the city was still surviving. Although he knew that the city was fraught with danger due to the presence of the formidable Black Incubus Devil Lord, he couldn't do nothing. He was a member of the human race, after all. Also, he had the emerald-glazed flame now. This was a powerful protection. It was formed from the essence of heaven and earth. A general stage martial warrior would have a tough time handling it if he got stained with the flame. Wang Ting could rely on it to save his life. Wind gusts passed his ear as Wang Ting increased his speed to the maximum. Soon, he heard the tragic sounds of a massacre. Force explosions echoed from afar, shaking the sky and the earth. Wang Ting's expression turned grim. When he got closer, he was given a shock. He realized that there were many more human martial warriors, and they were at a stalemate with the dark apparitions. Black Incubus Devil Lord had already joined the battle. Dan Taixian and numerous other general stage martial warriors had joined hands to attack her. It was an intense battle. On the other side of the sky, a few general stage human martial warriors were holding back the general stage dark apparitions. Only 2 general stage dark apparitions were left, the sheep-headed Saber and the 8-arms Devil General. The situation was better than he had expected. The human side wasn't the one getting beaten badly. When Wang Ting appeared on the battlefield, many people noticed him. The first to see him was Black Incubus Devil Lord. She was fighting many general stage human martial warriors by herself, strong and unparalleled. It was hard to imagine her true might. Black Incubus Devil Lord forced the general stage martial warriors back and looked at Wang Ting as if there was no one around her. A cold glint appeared in her eyes. Wang Ting felt his head turning numb from the sharp gaze, but the next instant, he glared back. "I'm not afraid of staring at you. My eyes aren't small." Wang Ting even raised his fist and pretended to punch her ferociously. Black Incubus Devil Lord's breathing turned heavy. "This bastard." Chapter 475, Return to the battlefield. Wang Ting sized up the metal armor flaming scorpion with interest and touched his chin. He was surprised by its suggestion. The metal armor flaming scorpion was a lord-level star beast. Yet, it was frightened of death and was willing to acknowledge him as its master to survive. However, to Wang Ting, it wasn't bad to have a lord-level spiritual pet. This metal armor flaming scorpion had undergone a mutation due to the emerald-glazed flame. Hence, its potential wasn't low. Furthermore, he had gotten his hands on the true form of the emerald-glazed flame. He could use it on the scorpion and improve its level. Of course, it would need to perform well if it wanted to obtain benefits from him. After thinking it through, Wang Ting looked at the nervous metal armor flaming scorpion and opened his mouth, his expression nonchalant. "Give me your spiritual flame, and I'll spare your life." The spiritual flame was the spirit core of all living creatures. General stage martial warriors or lord-level star beasts could feel the presence of their spiritual flame. Handing it over meant they were passing their lives to others. Compared to the spiritual pet contract, this method was much more direct. The one who handed over its spiritual flame would forever be a slave of the other. As expected, when the metal armor flaming scorpion heard Wang Ting asking for its spiritual flame, its heart stopped beating. It fell into a dilemma again. It had toiled hard to become a Lord-level star beast because it wanted to control its own fate. It was hard for it to stomach the thought of a human determining its actions in the future. But if it didn't hand it over, it would die. Wang Ting stared at the scorpion in silence. If it didn't relinquish its spiritual flame to him, he wouldn't be able to trust this star beast. In that case, he would have no choice but to kill it. The metal armor flaming scorpion also understood this. It hesitated because it was unwilling. Within a few seconds, it made its decision. A ball of murky flame floated out of its head. This matter had no shape or color. It couldn't be seen or touched. You could only use your spiritual power to sense it. Wang Teng released his spiritual kinesis and swallowed this ball of matter. Then, his spiritual kinesis shrunk back into his forehead. The metal armor flaming scorpion shuddered. It seemed to have suffered a serious injury and turned dispirited instantly. It laid on the ground weakly. Wang Ting glanced at it and said, "Stay here and heal your injury. Keep a watch over the emerald. Wait for me to come back." "I know." The metal armor flaming scorpion glanced at him with a complicated expression before lowering its head. "Since you have acknowledged me as your master, I won't beat around the bush. If you are obedient, you will get your fair share of benefits. I've obtained the emerald glazed flame, so you can think about this carefully." Wang Ting didn't explain thoroughly. He turned and left. The green flame is called the emerald glazed flame. This fellow knew what it was. No wonder he is able to subdue it. The metal armor flaming scorpion's eyes flickered. At the same time, it understood that if it could use the green flame for its cultivation, it could take another step forward. "Oh right, I have another spiritual pet that needs this green flame. I'll ask it to absorb the green flame later. Don't treat it as an intruder." Wang Ting turned back after taking a few steps. The metal armor flaming scorpion felt bitter. The main flame was gone, and he wasn't even given the small one. This fellow must be his natural enemy. And he already had a spiritual pet. It looked like his spiritual pet life wouldn't be easy. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. Wang Teng ignored the metal armor flaming scorpion and returned to the ground. It called Little White over and let it absorb the small flame. Initially, Wang Teng's target was the small flame. He didn't know that there was something better underneath. The metal armor flaming scorpion tried to act smart by luring him underground to kill him. In the end, it sent the emerald glazed flame straight into his arms. Hence, Wang Ting didn't want the small flame anymore. But to Little White, this small flame was a rare item. Through the spiritual pet contract, Wang Teng understood why Little White had such a strong yearning towards the green flame. Once it absorbed the green flame, it would be able to activate the ghost fire talent in its body, giving it stronger attacking power. Wang Teng was delighted to see this. He patted Little White's head and said, "Go ahead and absorb it. I need to hurry back to help them." "Caw." Little White cawed at him worriedly. "Don't worry. You won't die." Wang Ting told Little White the scorpion's identity. He asked the crow to stay here obediently and wait for its talent to awaken. Then, he rose into the air and disappeared into the horizon. Little White looked in his direction. After some time, it came beside the green flame and started absorbing it. Wang Ting flew quickly in the air, hurrying towards Star Maple City. He had wasted too much time here. He wished that the city was still surviving. Although he knew that the city was fraught with danger due to the presence of the formidable Black Incubus Devil Lord, he couldn't do nothing. He was a member of the human race, after all. Also, he had the emerald glazed flame now. This was a powerful protection. It was formed from the essence of heaven and earth. A general stage martial warrior would have a tough time handling it if he got stained with the flame. Wang Teng could rely on it to save his life. Wind gusts passed his ear as Wang Teng increased his speed to the maximum. Soon, he heard the tragic sounds of a massacre. Force explosions echoed from afar, shaking the sky and the earth. Wang Teng's expression turned grim. When he got closer, he was given a shock. He realized that there were many more human martial warriors, and they were at a stalemate with the dark apparitions. Black Incubus Devil Lord had already joined the battle. Dan Taishen and numerous other general stage martial warriors had joined hands to attack her. It was an intense battle. On the other side of the sky, a few general stage human martial warriors were holding back the general stage dark apparitions. Only 2 general stage dark apparitions were left, the sheep-headed Saba and the 8-arms devil general. The situation was better than he had expected. The human side wasn't the one getting beaten badly. When Wang Ting appeared on the battlefield, many people noticed him. The first to see him was Black Incubus Devil Lord. She was fighting many general stage human martial warriors by herself, strong and unparalleled. It was hard to imagine her true might. Black Incubus Devil Lord forced the general stage martial warriors back and looked at Wang Ting as if there was no one around her. A cold glint appeared in her eyes. Wang Ting felt his head turning numb from the sharp gaze, but the next instant, he glared back. "I'm not afraid of staring at you. My eyes aren't small." Wang Ting even raised his fist and pretended to punch her ferociously. Black Incubus Devil Lord's breathing turned heavy. This bastard. Chapter 476, the 13th lightning rod. When Black Incubus Devil Lord looked at Wang Ting, Dan Taishen and the other martial warriors saw him too. "Good lad, I knew that you wouldn't die." Dan Taishen laughed heartily, the worry in her heart disappearing. Lord Yang and the others were in a pretty bad state. They had suffered grave injuries, but when they saw Wang Ting, they felt relieved. This was great. They had high hopes for Wang Ting. If he was allowed to grow, he would become an indomitable guardian of the human race soon. Hence, they hoped that he wouldn't die here. Gorlin and the Rune Masters were furiously trying to recover their injured spiritual power. They wanted to reactivate the array, but they wouldn't be able to recuperate so quickly. Hearing the commotion, they opened their eyes and heaved a huge sigh of relief. It was as if a weight had been lifted off their shoulders. Kong Li, Yuan Xian, Xie Shuya, and the people who knew Wang Ting were beaming with joy after a moment of confusion. He didn't die. Kong Li's face was covered with blood. She didn't know if it was her blood or the dark apparitions. However, it was unable to hide the smile on her face. She slashed the dark apparition in front and shouted in happiness. She seemed exhilarated. "That's good. I would lose an opponent if he died." Yuan Xian wondered to himself. "I knew that that bastard wouldn't die so easily." Xie Shuya pouted. Suddenly, everyone remembered something. The realization left them stunned. If Wang Ting was back, where was that general stage dark apparition that went to chase him? Where was he? They looked behind Wang Ting. There was no sign of the lichen dark apparition. The next instant, an absurd thought appeared in their minds. Did Wang Ting kill the dark apparition? The moment this thought floated up, everyone got a shock. That was a general stage warrior. How could a 7-star soldier-level martial warrior kill him? Only Black Incubus Devil Lord knew that Wang Ting had killed the lichen dark apparition. He had even destroyed her clone with a single punch. This young human's ability seemed to have undergone some mysterious changes. His strength had risen tremendously. The punch he fired at her clone, based on the physical strength alone, had reached the general stage. However, she was baffled because the young human's aura was still at the 8-star soldier level. Also, remember that he was only at the 7-star soldier level at the start. This human wasn't simple. His talent was amazing too. He managed to advance during the battle. How could she let this talent remain alive? Black Incubus Devil Lord wanted to kill Wang Ting. But she heard Dan Taishen and the other general stage martial warriors' voices shouting beside her. Kill. Numerous general stage human martial warriors charged toward her while she was in a daze and attacked her violently. Me. Black Incubus Devil Lord frowned and snorted. "Since you're looking for death, I'll fulfill your wish." Dark force swarmed around her body. The black feather overcoat drifted in the wind, revealing her perfect body dressed in pitch-black tight-fitting armor. The armor tightly clung to her body, giving off a cold and dark glint. The pauldron, guard bras, and cuirass had sharp thorns on them. They gave her a fierce and wild aura. She looked like the dark god of war. The black feathers started congregating and formed a black feather sword and shield in her hand. Kill. Black Incubus Devil Lord bellowed as she dashed towards the general stage human martial warriors. Another frightening battle exploded, covering the sky with all kinds of force glows. Crimson, gold, blue, green, black. The force explosions shattered the sky, giving off a terrifying power. Wang Ting's expression turned grave. He looked at the battle in the sky and then at the chaotic battlefield below. Even though they were at a standstill, he could tell that the humans didn't have much of a chance of winning. Especially with the presence of Black Incubus Devil Lord. Dan Taixian and the human martial warriors won in numbers, but Wang Teng didn't think they had an advantage. Black Incubus Devil Lord was just too powerful. He needed to do something to change the tides. If not, the human race would be annihilated. His gaze shifted, and he saw Gorlin and the Rune Masters. He made a decision in his heart. There were multiple attribute bubbles accumulated on the ground. Wang Ting swept them over with his spiritual power. Next, he flew towards Gorlin and the Rune Masters as he picked up the attribute bubbles. "Master, can you host the array?" The Rune Masters glanced at one another and shook their heads. They sighed. "Our spiritual power is injured, and we are unable to recover quickly. Even if we try our best, we might not be able to withstand it for long. The power of the array will be greatly discounted." Wang Ting hesitated for a moment before saying, "Are you able to help me if I'm the core of the array?" "You?" The Rune Masters were shocked. They knew that Wang Ting's rune mastery had probably reached master level, so his spiritual power wouldn't be weak. But he would need to withstand most of the pressure if he was to be the core. Since they were injured, the pressure on them would naturally be transferred to Wang Ting. Difficult, very difficult. Gorlin shook his head. "Master, what if my spiritual power has reached the peak of the Emperor realm?" Wang Ting asked. When he was absorbing the attribute bubbles, his spiritual power had shot up and reached the peak of the Emperor realm quietly. Spirit, 962-1000, Emperor realm. One could imagine how many attribute bubbles there were on the battlefield. Emperor realm. Gorlin and the other Rune Masters looked at Wang Ting in astonishment. They believed that Wang Ting wouldn't joke with them in this situation. Hence, it must be true. But how was this possible? Even they hadn't reached that stage. He was so young, yet he had already surpassed them. They found it unbelievable. Wang Ting knew what they were thinking from their expressions. A strand of spiritual power seeped out from his forehead. Gorlin and the others were dumbfounded. Based on their experiences, they could sense that this spiritual power had indeed reached the peak of the Emperor realm. Good. Gorlin was elated. "We can give it a try." The other Rune Masters were overjoyed too. They looked at Wang Ting as if they were looking at a treasure. That gaze. Wang Ting took a step back unconsciously. However, at this moment, Master Carl hesitated. He said, "Even if we do that, the power of the two arrays could only reach the same height as before. It can harm normal general stage dark apparitions, but it won't be enough to deal with Black Incubus Devil Lord." The Rune Masters were stunned for a moment. They acknowledged this point. They clearly knew how powerful the two arrays were. It would only be able to imprison Black Incubus Devil Lord for some time before she broke through the array. At that time, the host of the array would receive a huge backlash. In the end, everything would be a wild goose chase. No one spoke for some time. "There's a way to raise the strength of the array," Gorlin suddenly said. "What way?" The Rune Masters got impatient. They saw hope. "You should know that the 1000 Thunder Annihilation Array has 12 lightning rods," Gorlin said. "Bullshit, of course, we know that." Master Carl cursed in his haste. "Carl, keep quiet." Master Gorlin hasn't finished speaking. "Why are you so impatient?" Master Cha Shu frowned. Gorlin gave a bitter smile. He continued, "In the past, I was bored, so I did further research on the 1000 Thunder Annihilation Array and found an ancient method of improving the array. It requires a 13th lightning rod, which will become the core of the array. At least one Rune Master is needed to support the operation of this rod and bear the force of all the lightning. He needs to gather all the lightning in one spot and throw out the fatal attack in the end." After listening to Gorlin's description and explanation, the Rune Masters turned silent. This method, is crazy. That's right. We won't be able to withstand the lightning if it gathers on a single spot. Anyone who tries would die. The host might fall due to the power of the lightning before giving the last strike. The rune masters were all experienced and sharp. They managed to find the flaw in this method almost immediately. They shook their heads. This wasn't a good idea. They weren't afraid of death, but the probability of this plan succeeding was too low. It was close to impossible. Why don't I try it? Gorlin suggested firmly. No. The rune masters shook their heads hurriedly. Master Gorlin, this is an unnecessary sacrifice. It's not worth it, Master Shu said. Also, we don't have a 13th lightning rod. We only made 12, Carl said. I was worried that this might happen, so I troubled the blacksmiths to make another lightning rod. Gorlin's tone was resolute. He said with grief, "Don't persuade me anymore. This is a dire situation. If I don't try, the human race will be in danger of extinction." The rune master didn't know how to refute. If the nest fell, the eggs would be broken. They understood this logic, but the success rate was too low, unacceptably low. After a moment of silence, they eventually nodded. Since we're already at this stage, let's put everything at stake and give it a try. Master Carl was the first to open his mouth. That's right. I'm old enough. I'm getting sick of living. Master Shu laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, we fight for the human race and die for the human race. 1,000 years later, my name will be remembered by our descendants. The other rune masters stroked their white beards and nodded in agreement. There was no fear of death on their faces. Cough, why don't I host the 13th lightning rod? Wang Tung finally found the chance to interrupt them. Chapter 477, I can use the lightning for cultivation you. The rune masters were shocked when they heard Wang Ting's words. They didn't expect Wang Ting to stand up. Although it was reassuring, they still felt helpless. No. Gorlin shook his head without thinking. I'm old, so it doesn't matter if I die. However, you're different. You're still young. You mustn't take the risk. That's right. We already have 1 foot into the coffin. It doesn't matter if we die. But young people like you are the future of this world, Master Carl said sincerely. Wang Tung didn't know if he should laugh or cry. These rune masters thought that he wanted to die in their place. Why were they acting like they would part forever? He opened his mouth and wanted to explain. At this moment, Master Shu patted his shoulder and smiled. You don't have to say anything. Give the old men a chance to be in the spotlight this time. Your path shouldn't end here. Wang Ting. These rune masters' imaginations were amazing. He didn't expect a day where everyone rushed to die. Master Carl glanced at the fierce fight in the sky. He saw the general stage human martial warriors retreating continuously under the attack of the Black Incubus Devil Lord. The situation wasn't good. Time is tight. Let's cut the crap and move. Okay. The other rune masters knew that there wasn't much time to waste, so they stood up with grim expressions. Wang Ting hurriedly opened his mouth. Master, I have a way to resist the power of lightning. Let me host the 13th lightning rod. You have a way to resist the force of the lightning? Gorlin was surprised. He said in a puzzled tone, don't use this excuse to fool me to take my place. Actually, you don't have to worry. Based on my cultivation, I have a high chance of survival. Wang Ting shook his head. He stopped beating around the bush and explained, I have a lightning element skyrank scripture that will allow me to train my physique using the force of lightning. It will complement the operation of the 1000 Thunder Annihilation Array. He raised his palm and allowed small bolts of lightning to congregate on it. The cracking sounds added weight to his words. You're a lightning element martial warrior. The doubt in the hearts of the rune masters dispersed when they saw the lightning force. At the same time, they were dumbstruck. Gorlin took a deep breath. During the Yang City War, Wang Ting had exposed many of his trump cards. Hence, he knew that he was a multi-element martial warrior. Still, he never expected Wang Ting to possess the rare lightning element force. He was flabbergasted, shooting Wang Ting a complicated look. Multi-element martial warriors were the pronoun of a talent. Even more, He had the lightning force. Gorlin had to admit that his disciple was a monster. The other rune masters had the same thought. Not only was Wang Ting's rune mastery high, but his martial arts talent was also appalling. It was unbelievable. If Wang Ting really possesses this special lightning skyrank scripture, we will be safe. Master Cha Shu stroked his beard. I won't joke on something like this, Wang Ting said. Everyone looked at Gorlin. As Wang Ting's master, he had to make the decision. I can use the power of lightning to cultivate. Master, don't fight with me for this chance, Wang Ting said in a half-joking manner. All the rune masters were left speechless. No one wanted to face the power of lightning, but Wang Ting wanted to use it for his cultivation. Were young people nowadays all so frightening? Seriously. Gorlin was caught between laughter and tears. He remained silent for a moment before asking once again, Are you sure you'll be fine? Don't worry, Master. I know what I'm doing. Wang Ting nodded. Okay, I've decided. You can host this array, but if you can't handle it, don't push yourself. Give up in time and save yourself, Gorlin said earnestly. Wang Ting felt Gorlin's care and felt warmth in his heart. He nodded. Gorlin stared at him intently. He kept quiet and took out the last lightning rod from his space ring, passing it to Wang Ting. The huge lightning rod landed on Wang Ting's shoulder. However, it seemed extremely light on him. This weight meant nothing to the current him. He smiled at Gorlin and the other rune masters before heading to the center of Star Maple City. The rune masters exchanged glances with one another before splitting up. They headed to the remaining 12 lightning rods scattered around the city. They sat cross-legged on the 12 lightning rods and released their spiritual power to activate the array. After reaching the center of the city, Wang Ting stabbed the lightning rod into the ground. Boom! Amidst the loud explosion, the heavy, enormous, and sturdy lightning rod punched right into the ground like the backbone of the city. Wang Ting stood on the lightning rod and looked at the rune masters. If they wanted to activate this lightning rod, they needed to start from the 12 lightning rods. They had to gather the power of the runes on those lightning rods to the rod below him. Boom! In the sky, Black Incubus Devil Lord was like a dark goddess of war. She held her sword and shield and threw everyone off their feet. The frightening force swept her surroundings like a tornado. Dan Taixian and the other human martial warriors kept retreating. Blood was dripping from the corner of their lips. However, they stubbornly charged forward again and again and fought with Black Incubus Devil Lord with all their might. Black Incubus Devil Lord noticed the commotion below and frowned slightly. She had witnessed the array hosted by the human rune masters. Even her general stage dark apparitions found it hard to deal with it, so it must be formidable. She was pestered by the human martial warriors, so she wasn't able to break free anytime soon. She couldn't look down on these humans. She might be strong, but under the combined attack of these general stage martial warriors, she found them troublesome too. If she allowed the humans to activate the array again, her side might be constrained. Her gaze turned sharp, and her cold voice echoed through the city. Kill those human rune masters. The high-rank dark apparitions received the order and immediately left the battlefield. They shot towards the rune masters. Stop them. The expressions of the general stage martial warriors changed as they shouted in a hurry. Many high-rank martial warriors tried to block them, but the dark apparitions didn't stop. They only had Black Incubus Devil Lord's order in their minds. Kill those human rune masters. Damn it. The human martial warriors were furious. They frantically tried to stop them, but a large portion of the dark apparitions still broke through their defense and flew towards the rune masters. Get 2 general stage martial warriors to kill those dark apparitions first. Lord Yang gritted his teeth and frowned as he fought with Black Incubus Devil Lord in the air. You have to ask me first. Black Incubus Devil Lord scoffed, her attacks becoming even more ferocious. The human martial warriors felt oppressed. Chapter 478, How Majestic. The dark apparitions arrived in the blink of an eye. The rune masters were activating the array, so they didn't have the extra hands to resist. This was an emergency. Kill. A dark apparition arrived in front of Master Carl. It raised its scythe-like weapon and prepared to kill this runemaster with a sinister smile. Karl's expression changed. Most of his spiritual power was spent on the array, so he could only erect a defense rune shield in front of him. Bang! The dark apparition was at the 9-star soldier level. The moment Master Karl formed his defense shield, the dark apparition shattered it with a full-force attack. The dark apparition's gaze was cold and ruthless, its scythe coming at Master Karl's throat. Gorlin and the other runemasters panicked when they saw this scene. Were they going to fail before they could even activate the array? Bitterness and despair floated into everyone's heart. They had just found hope, but it was broken so easily. No one would be able to accept it. "You're looking for death." A shout suddenly sounded. Along with it, a terrifying fire glow more than 10 meters long cut the sky into two from the left. The dark apparition's expression changed entirely. It let go of Master Karl and quickly shifted its weapon to block the incoming attack. Boom! The fire blade glow swallowed the dark apparition in an instant. Ah! A scream of agony escaped from the fire. Then, there was silence. The fire dissipated slowly. There was nothing left from the dark apparition, not even ashes. In his haste, Wang Ting had instilled the emerald-glazed flame directly into his fire blade glow. When the flaming blade glow hit the dark apparition, the emerald-glazed flame exploded in its body and burned him without leaving a trace. However, other people only saw the dark apparition getting burned into ashes with a single slash from Wang Ting. Both the human martial warriors and the dark apparitions were staring at him in astonishment with their mouths agape. An insta-kill. A 9-star soldier-level dark apparition got killed by Wang Ting in a split second. Heavens! He was terrifying. Wang Ting himself was astonished by the power of the attack. After all, this was his first time using the emerald-glazed flame. It was surprisingly strong, as expected of a treasure formed from the essence of the world. Impressive. Of course, he didn't reveal any emotions on his face, remaining calm and composed. He stood on the lightning rod with Mo Q in his hand. He placed the other hand behind his back and glanced at the warriors with an indifferent gaze. He looked like a man of noble character. The dark apparitions who came to kill the runemasters were all dumbstruck and took a few steps back instinctively. For a moment, no one dared to come forward. Damn it! He had killed a 9-star soldier-level dark apparition with a single strike. If they went forward, they would be gone too. The 8-arms devil general, who was fighting with the humans, squinted when he saw this scene. When did this young human become so powerful? He was filled with disbelief. It hadn't been long since they met in Yang City, but he had already grown to this stage. What a frightening talent! As expected, he should have killed him when he had the chance back then. Unfortunately, he didn't succeed the last time. Also, the useless Sylar didn't manage to kill him. He hadn't appeared until now, so he was probably dead. If this young human had killed him, he would be at the general stage, right? The more he thought about it, the more the 8-arms devil general felt astounded. He also noticed the divine weapon in Wang Ting's hand. The muscles on his face twitched. That was his divine weapon. Ha ha ha, good job. Dan Taixian, Lord Yang, and the other martial warriors were thunderstruck. They felt that Wang Ting's slash had destroyed all the frustrations in their hearts. They burst out laughing. On the other hand, Black Incubus Devil Lord's face turned black. This young human had created trouble for her again and again. It was infuriating. A cold glint appeared in her eyes. She said coldly, "Surround him and attack him together. Anyone that dares to run away will be killed." The dark apparitions trembled, and fear flashed across their eyes. Then, their gazes turned vicious. Kill. They charged forward once again. At that moment, the bloodthirsty nature of the dark apparitions was revealed directly. Gorlin and the other runemasters turned grim when they saw this. They wanted to get up and defend him. However, Wang Ting's voice echoed through the array. "Masters, focus on activating the array. I'll take care of these nobodies." The runemasters were appalled. Did Wang Ting just say that these high-rank dark apparitions were nobodies? But this tone made them feel at ease for some reason. They were decisive too. After hearing Wang Ting's words, they chose to believe in him and continued activating the array. They stopped looking at the dark apparitions flying towards him. The dark apparitions were furious. Not only were they called nobodies, but they also got ignored by the human rune masters. They needed to wash their humiliation away with some fresh blood. Wang Ting didn't give them the chance, though. Right after he finished speaking, he released his spiritual kinesis. Clang, clang, clang. All the weapons dropped on the battlefield shot into the air as if they were pulled by an invisible force. Everyone stared at them in amazement. The numerous weapons turned into a stream. A crimson-red light burned above them, bringing along a frightening power with it as it flowed towards the dark apparition. This is spiritual kinesis. Some people recognized the power and exclaimed in surprise. Wang Ting possessed spiritual kinesis. All the humans and dark apparitions widened their eyes in shock as they looked at the young man in the sky. His arms were opened as flames surrounded him and a stream formed by weapons gathered beside him. Under his command, the weapons turned into gigantic flaming swords. Some of the swords circled the rune masters, protecting them, while others went to attack the dark apparitions. At this moment, the entire Star Maple City was enveloped by his weapons torrent. What a majestic sight! The dark apparitions were submerged in the sea of weapons. The flame on the weapons wasn't normal either. There was a wisp of emerald-glazed flame mixed in it. Once it touched any dark apparition, the emerald-glazed flame would explode in their bodies. The dark apparitions screamed in pain as they fell to the ground. Some had already started burning in mid-air and turned into ashes within a split second. This was a land of wailing and despair for the dark apparitions. Not a single one of them managed to resist the torrent of weapons. All of them fell. The onlookers were in a daze, their jaws dropping without their control. They didn't know what to say. Gulp. The sound of someone swallowing his saliva broke the eerie silence. The dark apparitions were terrified. They looked at Wang Ting as if he were more of a devil than them. Honestly, they were scared. The killing intent in Black Incubus Devil Lord's heart boiled. She stared intently at Wang Ting, her desire to kill him reaching the peak. This human couldn't be left alive. Chapter 479, Fighting the Eight Arms Devil General head-on. The flaming weapon torrent slowly circled the sky around Star Maple City. The entire district was under its protection. Any dark apparitions that entered the vicinity were mutilated mercilessly. They plummeted to the ground like neatly cut vegetables. The human martial warriors felt reinvigorated. While the dark apparitions were still in a daze, the humans launched a fierce attack. The martial warriors like Kong Li and Yuan Xian were young, but they were experienced soldiers. Although they were startled by Wang Ting's strength, they quickly regained their composure. As if to prove that they weren't weaker than him, their attacks turned more ruthless. The dark apparitions around them were taken aback. Did these humans inject themselves with hormones? How did they become so cruel? Stupid humans, did they think that they were afraid? They couldn't offend the talented human, but they weren't frightened of the other humans. In an instant, the dark apparitions resisted fiercely. Kill, kill, kill. The two sides started an intense fight again. Weapons collided, and force exploded. In this war, dark apparitions were killed and human martial warriors were sacrificed. Life was the most worthless thing here. Fresh red blood stained the ground. The sky was grey. 5 huge dimensional rifts revolved slowly, painting the picture of an apocalypse. Wang Ting turned serious as he watched the battle unfold. Ha ha ha, die with me. A peal of happy laughter was heard at this moment. Wang Ting immediately looked in the direction of the sound. He saw the Eight Arms Devil General injuring a human martial warrior. The human's chest got cut open, and one of his arms was chopped off. He was covered in blood. Wang Ting wanted to direct the weapon torrent to reinforce the man, but it was too late. Comrades, I'll make my move first. Take care. Boom. The moment he finished speaking, a loud explosion resounded through the entire battlefield. He had self-destructed. Wang Ting squinted his eyes, feeling staggered. That was a general stage martial warrior. General he. Lord Yang and the other's eyes turned bloodshot. Their expressions turned hideous as they roared in anger. He was a general stage warrior from the Xingwu continent. He was also the first human general stage martial warrior to lose his life in this war. The humans had found out the Dark Apparition's plan in advance and were at an advantage. They had arranged 2 big arrays and killed multiple general stage Dark Apparitions using them. At the same time, Wang Teng went through a huge risk and spent much effort before he killed a general stage Dark Apparition. The situation should have been extremely good for them, but the appearance of Black Incubus Devil Lord turned the tides. Finally, a general stage human martial warrior got killed. Mind you, every general stage human martial warrior was a precious treasure for the human race. They were like a strategic resource. Under special circumstances, every general stage formidable warrior was equivalent to an army. Yet today, a general stage human martial warrior was killed. A lot of time and resources were spent to groom a general stage martial warrior. Every single victim was a huge loss. The human race couldn't afford to suffer such losses. A disheveled figure dashed out of the center of the explosion. It was the 8 Arms Devil General who was the first to bear the brunt. Maniac. His expression was ugly as he cursed. The explosion had blown away 2 of his 5 remaining arms, leaving only 3 arms. He was drenched in blood and looked terrifying. Wang Teng's gaze turned cold. It was the 8 Arms Devil General again. Previously, he was in Yang City, and now, he was here again. Many human martial warriors had died in his hand. If he wasn't hosting the rune array, he wanted to see if he could fight with him. Even though his dark force didn't transform to the general stage, it seemed to have undergone some changes that he didn't understand. This allowed him to possess the power of the general stage. With the help of his spiritual kinesis, he believed that he could face a general stage dark apparition head-on. As he was thinking, Black Incubus Devil Lord's voice sounded from the sky again. Zers, kill that young human, and I will record your meritorious deeds when Embark. The 8 Arms Devil General froze. In the past, he would have obliged. However, he was seriously injured. It would be dangerous if he went head-on now. Furthermore, the young human wasn't what he used to be. When they were at Yang City, he could kill him easily. Cough, cough, of course, the external force of the rune array wasn't in the picture. He hadn't forgotten how Wang Teng controlled the 8 Dragon Ablaze array and tormented him terribly. That was an unbearable memory. But now, even the general stage Sylar had died in his hands. Also, from his spiritual kinesis attack, he could tell that this young human wasn't easy to deal with. All these reasons made him a little scared. Black Incubus Devil Lord turned black in her face when she saw him frozen on the spot. A general stage dark apparition was so afraid of a young human that he didn't dare to fight with him. How embarrassing. She shouted coldly, Zers, don't forget your mistake. You should know the consequences if you don't perform well this time. The 8 Arms Devil General's expression changed. The scale in his heart finally tilted to one side. If Black Incubus Devil Lord hadn't opened her mouth, he could have looked for other opponents and continued his massacre. After all, killing one general stage human martial warrior was an achievement. No one would deny his merits when he went back. But Black Incubus Devil Lord had given her order. The circumstances had changed now. If he didn't obey her, he would be labeled a coward. This would be a stain on his life. Many thoughts went through the 8 Arms Devil General's mind. He sighed uncontrollably and stared coldly at Wang Teng. Wang Teng also heard Black Incubus Devil Lord. He turned and met the 8 Arms Devil General's gaze. The atmosphere froze. His thoughts had become true. It looked like before the array was activated, he had to fight with the 8 Arms Devil General. Wang Teng scanned the array. It was only half completed. They were upgrading it to the Plus version, so some changes were needed. If not, it would have been ready a long time ago. However, he couldn't stay too far from the 13th lightning rod. He might not be able to rush back in time if the array was activated. In that case, he would let the 8 Arms Devil General come to him voluntarily. A smirk appeared on Wang Teng's lips. He raised Mo Q and waved it at the 8 Arms Devil General. You have a death wish. As expected, the 8 Arms Devil General was triggered. He glared at Wang Ting and took out a bottle of pitch-black pills. He threw them into his mouth without counting. Boom. The next second, the dark force in his body exploded, wisps of black smoke rising from his body. His muscles squirmed as his injuries healed rapidly. No more blood flowed out from them. His aura became more powerful too. His entire body turned twice as tall and lofty. The pressure he gave off was oppressive. Wow, he's giving his all. Wang Ting raised his eyebrows and said in a light-hearted tone. However, his gaze turned serious. Boom. The 8 Arms Devil General didn't waste any time. He stepped on the air, and the air exploded. Then, he turned into a flash of black light and shot towards Wang Ting. Chapter 480. Do you remember this spear? Let me return it to you. As the 8 Arms Devil General charged towards him, Wang Ting's gaze landed behind him. That was where General he had self-destructed. Numerous big attribute bubbles were floating in mid-air. Wang Ting's spiritual power went around the 8 Arms Devil General and picked up the attribute bubbles. Spiritual Realm Spirit *320 Spiritual Realm Enlightenment *260 Water Force *1100 Advanced Stage Water Talent *350 Triple Ripples Water Scripture *1 7-star Emerging Scripture *1 Emerging Sword Conscious *220 While he was absorbing the attribute bubbles, Wang Ting was stunned. It was understandable that a general stage martial warrior would drop many high-quality attribute bubbles. Their spirit, enlightenment, and even force were higher than normal martial warriors when they died. The most precious items were contained in the 4 bubbles behind. A total of 350 points of advanced stage water talent allowed Wang Ting's water talent to rise tremendously. Then, Triple Ripples Water Scripture, a water element skyrank scripture. 7-star Emerging Scripture, a water element skyrank sword battle technique. Emerging Sword Conscious, the conscious of a skyrank sword technique. This was a present general he gave him after his death. Suddenly, an image appeared in his mind. He was beside a cliff. There was a stream running at the side, flowing into the horizon. At the same time, 3 blurry human light figures appeared. One of them sat cross-legged beside the cliff and was cultivating. Complicated force paths appeared on his body. The second light figure was practicing his sword in the stream. Amidst the water vapors, an invisible water sword raged in the stream. The third light figure was facing a huge waterfall roaring down the cliff. Suddenly, he slashed his sword out, and a sharp and powerful white light soared into the sky. This move caused the waterfall to change its direction and the stream was split into 2. It was a formidable move. Outside, the 8 Arms Devil General continued charging towards Wang Ting. When he noticed that Wang Ting was in a daze, his face turned black. Then, his expression turned hideous. Black blade glow appeared as he swung his blade at Wang Ting. Clang, clang, clang. Wang Ting controlled the flaming weapon torrent with his spiritual kinesis, allowing it to spin on its normal path with him in the center. The black blade glow from the 8 Arms Devil General clashed into the flaming weapon torrent and gave off a metallic sound. Wang Ting was only immersed in his thoughts for a split second. At this moment, he was looking at the 8 Arms Devil General coldly. He suddenly raised his arm and pointed at him. Countless weapons congregated into a huge flaming sword. It struck right towards his enemy. The 8 Arms Devil General's expression changed. He threw out a few blade attacks quickly to resist the frightening fire sword. Boom! The 2 forces collided, setting off a huge eruption. The 8 Arms Devil General was thrown off his feet. He tumbled in the air before forcing himself to a stop. His expression was grim. A single attack from this young lad was enough to force him back. When did he become so powerful? He expected this young human to be strong, but he didn't know that the before and after difference was so big. The power of that attack was at the general stage. However, he didn't believe that this young human could continuously release such powerful attacks as a soldier-level martial warrior. Die! The 8 Arms Devil General bellowed in anger. Dark force surged out, and he waved his blade again. A terrifying black blade glow formed in the air, sweeping towards Wang Ting. Wang Ting snorted. Holding Mo Q, the fire force in him erupted. A flaming blade glow poured out. Skyrank battle technique, Big Dipper flaming blade. Blade conscious explosion. Boom, boom, boom. The black and red blade glows erupted in the air. The impact of the explosion affected half the sky. The terrifying blade glows struck the humans and dark apparitions below too. They were appalled as they left the area hastily. Many people were dumbfounded. Wang Ting was able to face a general stage dark apparition without losing his ground. This was unbelievable. Wang Ting retracted his gaze. Indeed, a general stage presence wasn't easy to deal with. When he returned to the battlefield, he had picked up another round of attribute bubbles, so his 5 elements had all risen to the 9-star soldier level. But their flaws were obvious when compared with a real general stage formidable warrior. As for the mutations of the dark force, it allowed his physical body and his strength to reach the general stage. There was nothing to worry about. However, he couldn't use his dark force whenever he wanted. In the end, he had to rely on his spiritual kinesis. While the blade glow was dispersing, he pushed his spiritual kinesis out and controlled the weapon torrent to attack the 8-arms Devil General. The 8-arms Devil General didn't dare to receive it forcefully. He dodged right and left, but those weapons clung to him under Wang Ting's control. They chased him wherever he went. He was going crazy. Damn it. The 8-arms Devil General was furious. He howled in anger and turned around to launch a full-fledged attack. Boom. He slammed the blade in his hand at the flaming sword formed by the weapon torrent. The explosion echoed throughout the entire city. Time seemed to have stopped for a second. Crack. Crack. A crisp sound broke the stalemate. The 8-arms Devil General narrowed his eyes. He watched the blade in his hand burst apart. Then, the weapon torrent slammed into his chest ruthlessly. The 8-arms Devil General felt as if he was struck by lightning. He vomited a mouthful of blood uncontrollably. However, a dense black glow lit up around his body. This seemed to be a strong defense skill that helped him to block the lethal attack forcefully. Ha ha ha, he opened his mouth and laughed delightedly. There was still blood at the edge of his lips. Do you think you can kill me? Why do you have to do that? Wang Ting remained calm. A spear appeared in his hand as he continued indifferently. Do you remember this spear? The 8-arms Devil General's gaze flickered. He scoffed. Lad, you're lucky that I didn't kill you back then. I have always remembered this spear. Now, I'll return it to you. Wang Ting released his hand. The spear flew out under the control of his spiritual kinesis and merged with the weapon torrent. It got engulfed in flames. No one knew that the emerald-glazed flame was part of this flame. At the same time, the weapon torrent changed shape. It turned into a flaming thorn and was spinning at high speed. The spear was the core of this flaming thorn. The 8-arms Devil General's heart pounded. His head turned numb, and he retreated without stopping. Go. Wang Ting spurted this word emotionlessly. The flaming spear shot towards the 8-arms Devil General and arrived in front of him like a flash of lightning. It was aimed right at his chest. Stop. The 8-arms Devil General screamed. The black light around him was at its thickest. It shimmered frantically as it tried its best to resist the thorn. Under the defense of the black light, the weapons that formed the thorn started melting. They melted into broken pieces and flew away in the wind. Gradually, the spear core was revealed. Slash. The next instant, a green flame shot out from the spear, directly burning through the black defense layer. Then, it pierced through the 8-arms Devil General's chest, along with the spear. Chapter 481, Imperial Realm Spirit. The 8-arms Devil General suddenly widened his eyes in shock. Slowly lowering his head, he saw the huge hole in his chest. Blood was flowing out like a stream. How is this possible? Disbelief filled up his face. He never thought that he would get seriously injured by a soldier-level human martial warrior. The memories of Yang City floated into his mind. At that time, he could kill this human as easily as an ant. He almost killed this puny human with a casual throw of his spear back then. If someone hadn't saved him, he would have died. Yet today, as a general stage dark apparition, he was seriously injured by his spear. It was the same spear, but the result was entirely different. How ironic. Wang Ting stood erected in the lightning rod, glaring at the eight-arms devil general with his sharp gaze. What do you think of this spear? You. The eight-arms devil general was furious, vomiting a mouthful of blood uncontrollably. Lord Yang and the others were shocked when they saw this situation. Wang Ting had managed to defeat a general stage dark apparition. It felt unreal. When the eight-arms devil general attacked Wang Ting, they wanted to help him, but Black Incubus Devil Lord held them back. Unexpectedly, after a short while and the full force attacks of both sides, the winner was born quickly. Even more, the winner was the weaker Wang Ting. This was out of their expectation. They felt that their judgment of Wang Ting's talent was too low. As someone who had managed to defeat a general stage warrior with soldier-level ability, the young man's potential was frightening. As for the lichen dark apparition who chased Wang Ting, they didn't see the process of him getting killed, so the impact wasn't direct. Useless. Black Incubus Devil Lord was infuriated. All her general stage dark apparitions, be it Scylla or Zers, fell in this young human's hand. If they weren't useless, what were they? She was angered by their uselessness and bewildered by Wang Ting's potential. Even she had to admit that this young man's talent and potential were incomparable to any other people. He would definitely reach her height if given enough time. He might even surpass her. Killing intent filled up her heart when she thought of this possibility. At first, she felt that Wang Ting must be killed because he was the talent of the human race. Now, she felt that if he wasn't removed, he would become a disaster for them. Wang Ting's importance had skyrocketed. Although the eight-arms devil general was seriously injured by Wang Ting, he remained strong. He knew that with his injury, he wasn't Wang Ting's match, so he didn't plan to continue fighting. He bore with the excruciating pain and retreated, wanting to rush to the dimensional rifts and leave this world. There was a human saying that he agreed with. Where there was life, there was hope. He might have to face the consequences of leaving in failure, but it was better than dying. As long as he was alive, there was a chance of him taking revenge. Wang Ting frowned when he noticed that the dark apparition had dropped his dignity without any hesitation as a general stage warrior and chose to run away. He glanced at the rune masters. They were almost done with the activation of the array. It would be inappropriate for him to leave the lightning rod now. However, he was unwilling to let the eight-arms devil general escape so easily. These thoughts flashed past his mind. Then, his eyes lit up, and he slashed Mo Q in the air. A sharp white light exploded from Mo Q. The moment he made his move, the light disappeared from the space in front. The eight-arms devil general was on his guard. Suddenly, his heart palpitated out of fear. He turned to take a look and saw Wang Ting's attack disappearing into space. Then, he noticed the air in front of him turning distorted. A sharp white sword glow appeared out of thin air. He was flabbergasted and immediately released what was left of his dark force. Boom! The sharp sword glow fell on the eight-arms devil general. It penetrated his body and landed on the mountain in the distance. Boom! A huge explosion shook the ground. The mountain seemed to have collapsed. The eyes of the eight-arms devil general widened in surprise. A line of blood appeared on his forehead, moving down his nose, mouth, neck, all the way down. He recognized that move. It was the same battle technique as the general stage human martial warrior whom he had forced to self-destruct. 7-star emerging scripture. Wang Ting used this move, along with his space talent, to kill the escaping eight-arms devil general. In the sky, the eight-arms devil generals split into two and fell to the ground weakly. At that instant of his death, he was filled with frustration and unwillingness. He had died at the hands of a soldier-level human. He died under his own weapon. He died from the battle technique of the person he had killed. All these factors kept mocking him silently. Karma. The eight-arms devil general was dead. Black Incubus Devil Lord stopped putting her attention on this side and started fighting with the general stage human martial warriors more violently. She should end this battle soon. The general stage human martial warriors couldn't resist much longer. Once she killed them, she wouldn't need to worry about the other humans. She would be able to pinch that young human to death easily before he fully grew up. Dan Taixian and the others had no time to pay attention to Wang Teng. As time progressed, the pressure on them was increasing. They would be killed if they didn't focus. If all of them died here, it would be a catastrophic blow to the human race. Wang Ting used his spiritual power to pull the attribute bubbles the 8 Arms Devil General had dropped after his death. Spiritual Realm Spirit *360 Spiritual Realm Enlightenment *330 Advanced Stage Dark Talent *415 Dark Force *1358 Level Devil Scripture *608 Arms Devil Physique *30 As all these attribute bubbles merged into his body, he shuddered. A tremendous change occurred in his body. First, it was his mind. As the 360 points of the spiritual realm spirit entered his body, Wang Teng's spirit achieved a breakthrough. Spirit, 2300, Imperial Realm Spirit. Wang Teng's spirit had advanced into another realm. At that moment, on this battlefield, Wang Teng's spirit entered a profound state. Imperial Realm Spirit. Even Gorlin and the other rune masters hadn't reached this realm. It was said that you would only be able to enter the Grandmaster stage if you reached this spiritual realm. Wang Ting's rune mastery hadn't reached the Grandmaster stage, but his spiritual realm got there first. The door to being a rune Grandmaster was wide open to him. After he improved his rune mastery in the future, he would step into the Grandmaster stage. To others, they might never have a chance to enter this stage. For instance, Gorlin and the other rune masters had studied this field for more than 100 years, but only Gorlin had touched the door to the Grandmaster stage. However, to Wang Teng, it wasn't difficult. Instead, it was extremely easy. Chapter 482, The 8 Arms Devil Physique and the Revelation of Defeat at the same time, a spiritual kinesis was born in his mind. It allowed his original spiritual kinesis to expand multiple times. The dragon formed from spiritual kinesis grew bigger, its claws and scales lifelike. It seemed like a real dragon. A glaring gaze shimmered in Wang Teng's eyes as he scanned his surroundings. It was oppressive. Eyes were the windows of one's spirit. The most obvious change in him after his spiritual realm increased was his gaze. After that instantaneous glimmer, the light retracted, and his eyes turned deep and profound. This was solely the changes to his spirit. Some unknown changes were happening to his physical body too. 8 Arms Devil Physique. This was his second physique talent after the Demon Lotus Poison Body. Wang Teng didn't know if he should be surprised or happy. Actually, he felt a little worried. He had absorbed the attribute bubbles a little too quickly. If he knew that this was the 8 Arms Devil General's special physique, he wouldn't have dared to absorb it. After all, he had a deep memory of the 8 Arms Devil General's appearance. The guy had 8 arms. Wang Teng looked at his body instinctively. He was afraid that his small body wouldn't be able to handle the weight of 8 arms. If he really grew 8 arms, he would definitely turn into a monster. He thought of the situation just now and shuddered in fear. But it was too late to regret. The attribute bubble had already entered his body, and changes had started appearing. He didn't know if it was his illusion, but he felt a throbbing on his back. It felt as if something wanted to burst out of his skin. No. Wang Teng screamed in his heart. He was appalled. The legendary Neza had 6 arms, but he went straight to 8. How frustrating. Very soon, the physical transformation stopped. Feeling a certain change in his body, he understood what happened. 8 Arms Devil Physique. 36,000 The 8 Arms Devil Physique was a physique talent of the 8 Arms Devil race. Anyone with this physique would have an indomitable body, and their battle ability would surpass those at the same level. At the same time, they possessed a strong vitality and astonishing recovery ability. When they were heavily injured, they wouldn't die immediately. They could recover quickly. No wonder the 8 Arms Devil General didn't die and still had the fuel to escape. It was all due to this 8 Arms Devil Physique. Wang Teng was enlightened. The 8 arms were real, but it didn't mean that anyone who possessed this physique would grow them. The 8 Arms Devil Physique was a combat form of the 8 Arms Devil Physique. You would only be able to use it after you had enlightened the higher level of the 8 Arms Devil Physique. The members of the 8 Arms Devil race were born with 8 arms. If they used the 8 Arms Devil physique, the effect would be combined. At that time, a frightening change would occur to their arms, improving their attacking power. This was why the 8 Arms Devil physique was extremely compatible with the 8 Arms Devil race. However, there were rumors that the 8 Arms Devil race grew 8 arms due to the influence of the 8 Arms Devil physique. Hence, they evolved from having 2 arms to having 8 arms. Evolution was the talent of every living thing. But Zerz's bloodline was weak, so his arms were not that powerful. He wasn't able to execute the battle form of the 8 arms. If not, Wang Ting wouldn't have defeated him so easily. Now, Wang Ting knew the deepest secret of the 8 Arms Devil race and even gained their physique talent. His 8 Arms Devil physique wasn't as powerful as Zerz's, but his bug would allow him to increase this attribute more easily. Everyone knew that physique and talent were innate. It was hard to change it in the future or improve it. This was why Zerz's bloodline was still weak even though he was at the general stage. Zerz wanted to improve the power of his bloodline, so his battle ability could increase. Of course, when he advanced to the general stage, his bloodline power rose. This made things easier for Wang Ting. Wang Ting didn't think too much about the 8 arms. The trait was too obvious and ugly. If there wasn't a need, he wouldn't use it. But he had high hopes for the recovery ability and strong vitality of this physique. There were only pros and no cons if he continued to raise this attribute. It would keep him alive longer. The remaining attributes consisted of enlightenment and dark force. The 600 points of 8-level Devil Scripture raised his proficiency from small achievement to big achievement. 8-level Devil Scripture, 265 1000, big achievement. The 8-level Devil Scripture was compatible with the 8 Arms Devil physique. It looked like the battle ability of the 8 Arms Devil race was focused on the physique. Wang Ting possessed both, so his physique became stronger and his battle ability rose. He clenched his fists and felt extremely good. He could eat 10 bowls of rice now. Boom! The battle in the sky turned intense, and a figure was hurled down. Wang Ting regained his senses and hurriedly took a look. His expression changed. The figure that slammed down was the general of Star Maple City, Yin Tongfang. He crashed into the ground and formed a deep hole. The dust dissipated and revealed the condition below. Yin Tongfang was covered with blood. A few gruesome wounds could be seen on his body, showing his grievous injuries. Wang Ting raised his head. Dan Taixian and the other general stage martial warriors were also in a bedraggled state. Black Incubus Devil Lord was too powerful and was at a much higher level. If they didn't win in numbers, they wouldn't have been able to resist for so long. The defeat was slowly revealing itself. Wang Ting turned grim. He looked at Gorlin and the Rune Masters and felt agitated. Faster, faster. This was the crucial moment, so he could only pray in his heart and not interrupt them with any sounds. Boom! Another figure slammed on the ground. It was another general stage martial warrior he didn't recognize. This guy was seriously injured too. He lay in the hole and couldn't get up. The other human martial warriors around them surrounded them and protected the 2 general stage warriors. A few more seconds later, another 2 general stage martial warriors were thrown to the ground. It was unknown if they were dead or alive. Dan Taixian, Lord Yang, and the remaining martial warriors continued to resist. Unfortunately, it was highly likely that they would get killed or heavily injured by Black Incubus Devil Lord soon. The humans felt a sense of despair. As more and more general stage warriors fell, the despair got stronger. Were they going to die here? Was there no hope for the humans? Master, please hurry. Wang Ting's expression was grave. He looked at the Rune Masters with sweat on his palm, trying his best to remain calm. He couldn't mess up at this moment. They still had nope. As long as the array was activated, there would be hope. The Rune Masters had also noticed the dire situation, so they put all their effort into activating the array quickly. Boom! Finally, the array trembled. The dense rune on the 13th lightning rod under Wang Ting lit up. Wang Ting! Gorlin shouted. Chapter 483, Array Activation, Lightning Fell. Wang Ting! Gorlin's shout echoed in the air. Wang Teng didn't need any reminders. He acted instantly. His spiritual kineses surged out and intertwined the lightning rod below him. Along with the 12 lightning rods under the Runemasters, the 13th lightning rod worked mutually with one another. Thousand Thunder Annihilation Array, activated. Boom. 13 rays of light soared into the sky. Wang Ting's gaze turned serious. He slowly sat down cross-legged on the lightning rod. With the help of his spiritual kineses, he was floating in mid-air. Wang Ting activated the Leiting physique. Suddenly, the weather changed, and black clouds floated over. Boom. Thunder resounded through the entire sky. The people on the ground raised their heads, feeling shocked. The array is activated. There's still hope. The human martial warriors roared. Don't give up. Follow me and charge. The morale of Kong Li, Yuan Xian, and the others was boosted. Drenched in blood, they possessed a ferocious aura, looking like gods of death. Black Incubus Devil Lord also noticed the situation in the sky. She raised her head and squinted when she saw the lightning flashing down from the dark clouds. Dan Taixian and the others were elated. They exchanged glances and felt a sense of hope rising in their hearts. In the middle of the array, as the lightning force flowed around Wang Teng's body, the lightning in the sky started turning violent as if it was stimulated. Suddenly, bolts of lightning suddenly shot down towards the middle of the array. Boom! 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 Bolts of lightning flashed down again and again. Instantly, the 13th lightning rod and Wang Ting got submerged by the boundless lightning. The Runemasters stared at Wang Teng intently. They were extremely nervous. This process was too dangerous. Wang Teng did promise them that he wouldn't be in danger, but they were still worried. If something wrong occurred, he would be injured or might even be reduced to a charred corpse. This brat. Dan Taixian looked towards the center of the array while gritting her teeth. A tinge of worry appeared in her eyes. Hes pushing himself too much. Lord Yang and the others were worried but hopeful. After all, Wang Ting was bearing the weight of all the humans' hope. If he lost, the humans here would die in this battle. What a tough guy. Black Incubus Devil Lord's gaze flickered. She didn't know what these humans were doing or how powerful their plan could become, but she knew that they wanted to use this array to defeat her. Even though she was confident, she wouldn't sit and wait without doing anything. She moved her body and charged towards Wang Ting. Stop her. Dan Taixian and the other martial warriors' expressions changed. They hurriedly blocked her path. Move. Black Incubus Devil Lord shouted. She slashed her battle sword and started fighting with the human martial warriors. The first batch of lightning disappeared on the 13th lightning rod, revealing Wang Teng's figure. He was covered with purple bolts of small lightning that looked like tiny snakes slithering around his body. It was a divine sight. Again, Wang Teng raised his head and bellowed. Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying bolts of lightning shot down from the sky as if provoked by his words. They were all aimed at Wang Teng. Wang Teng bathed in the lightning. His clothes floated in the wind, and his hair danced violently. It made him look wild and unruly. Lightning Force *30 Lightning Force *50 Lightning Force *45 Wang Teng collected all the Lightning Force attribute bubbles that were formed to raise his Lightning Force quickly. At the same time, he activated the Leiting physique. Lightning Force congregated in his body and merged with the array. The entire array was slowly spinning. With the addition of the Lightning Force, purple bolts of lights shimmered in the array, and lightning cracked furiously. To others, Wang Teng, who was in the middle of the array, was in an extremely dangerous situation. Their hearts jumped every time a bolt of lightning struck down. They were worried. Again. However, Wang Ting's laughter kept coming from the center. Everyone was stunned. How could that fellow laugh in this dangerous situation? Eventually, they finally noticed that he didn't seem to be in much danger. The lightning might be terrifying to normal people, but it didn't pose any threat to Wang Teng. This was unexpected. Gorlin and the other runemaster glanced at one another with a weird expression. This fellow didn't lie to them. He was truthful when he said that the lightning wouldn't harm him. They heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts. As more and more lightning force gathered in the array, Black Incubus Devil Lord felt her heart trembling. She knew that she couldn't let the young human gather more lightning. If not, the power of this rune array might seriously be a threat to her. Boom! Lord Yang finally fell under Black Incubus Devil Lord's attack. He was stabbed in the chest by her sword and was seriously injured, vomiting a mouthful of blood. The other general stage martial warriors hurried forward. However, there were too few of them, so their battle ability had decreased tremendously. They were swept away by Black Incubus Devil Lord. Fart. Dan Taixian exchanged a palm with Black Incubus Devil Lord and flew backward. She coughed out blood. Within a split second, multiple general stage martial warriors were forced to retreat. In the end, Black Incubus Devil Lord dashed towards Wang Ting. You are the first soldier-level martial warrior that I have to attend to personally. Black Incubus Devil Lord's expression had turned cold. A black glow slashed out of her sword. Wang Teng wasn't affected. He stared at Black Incubus Devil Lord without backing down and pointed at her. A bolt of lightning jumped out from the array. Boom! The lightning slammed into the black sword glow and destroyed it instantly. 3 more bolts of lightning appeared to welcome the true form of Black Incubus Devil Lord. Black Incubus Devil Lord's gaze flickered. She dodged quickly in mid-air and evaded the 3 lightning attacks. Wang Ting moved his finger, and 10 more bolts of lightning shot out. Black Incubus Devil Lord couldn't evade them anymore. She snorted and fought them with her sword. Boom, boom, boom. The bolts of lightning struck down from above her head. They collided with the black sword glows, setting off loud explosions. Masters, activate the Yi Wood Melting Fire Array. Wang Ting said through voice transmission. Can you handle it? Gorlin frowned and asked. No problem. Wang Ting's tone was firm. Gorlin and the Rune Masters stopped asking and activated the Yi Wood Melting Fire Array together. There was no change to the array. They just needed to continue what they were doing, and the other array would get activated soon. Wang Ting continued absorbing the lightning force while hosting the array to shoot lightning at Black Incubus Devil Lord to push her back. Boom! After some time, Wang Ting felt another array being revived. He shuddered. A ball of pure green flame rose from his body. The emerald glazed flame. The green flame spread to his entire body before merging into the array. The entire Yi Wood Melting Fire Array was engulfed by the burning green flame. Chapter 484. Coincidentally, Hez the same age as my daughter. Boom! Extremely thick green flame filled up the entire array, and scorching heat swept over, turning the area covered by the Yi Wood Melting Fire Array into a fiery hell. Everyone was stunned by this sudden scene. Green flame! What is this? Gorlin and the other Rune Masters were astounded as they stared at the green flame in confusion. As Rune Masters, they were more familiar with special flames compared to an ordinary person. It only took 1 second for them to confirm that this green flame was extraordinary. This green flame must be a special flame formed from the essence of the world. It is anything but ordinary, Master Carl muttered. Master Gorlin, your disciple hides well. I didn't know that he had such a treasure, the other Rune Masters exclaimed. I didn't know either. I've never heard him mention it, Gorlin said with a bitter smile. Mind you, he lived for a few hundred years, but he had never seen any special flames recorded in the ancient books. As the saying went, a waterfront pavilion would get the moonlight first. If he knew that Wang Teng possessed this green flame, he would have studied it properly. Carl, Cha Shu, and the other Rune Master examined the green flame carefully. They seemed mesmerized by it. On the other side, Black Incubus Devil Lord was rushing towards Wang Teng, but she was stopped by the green flame. This is the green flame from that scorpion. But why is it stronger? Her expression was grim. The memories her clone transferred to her appeared in her mind. The metal armor flaming scorpion used this flame. However, compared to the green flame the young human took out, it was nothing. She sensed that the flame was extraordinary. If she got stained by it accidentally, she would get injured too. Dan Taixian and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they saw Black Incubus Devil Lord falling into the array. At first, They thought that Wang Ting would be in danger since his opponent was the formidable Black Incubus Devil Lord. But it was the other way round. Black Incubus Devil Lord was in trouble after entering the array Wang Ting was hosting. Let's recover quickly while Black Incubus Devil Lord is held back by the array. We need to prepare for any accidents, Lord Yang said with a sharp gaze. That's right. That young man tried his best to buy us some time. We mustn't waste it. Another unfamiliar general stage martial warrior nodded. They stopped talking and immediately started recuperating. In the huge array, Wang Ting stared at Black Incubus Devil Lord from afar. There seemed to be 2 green flames burning in his eyes. His gaze appeared strange and magical. Suddenly, the green flames congregated into chains. They hurled themselves at Black Incubus Devil Lord from all directions. Clang! Even though they were formed from flames, the chains still gave off a metallic sound when they collided. Black Incubus Devil Lord's expression changed slightly. She rose into the air and dodged them quickly. Yet, more and more chains took shape and flew towards her, forming a tight net around her. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At the same time, the green flames also formed many spears and stabbed towards her. Black Incubus Devil Lord's expression turned ugly. She shuttled back and forth between the chains and the spears. Slash. Suddenly, a lingering shadow scraped her arm, a wisp of green flame rising from it. The green flame rose abruptly from the part of her body that was rubbed. Instantly, the flame swallowed her entire arm. Black Incubus Devil Lord squinted her eyes. She hurriedly shook off the dark force that was stained with the green flame covering her arm. Before she had the time to retaliate, another net formed from spears and chains bore down from above her. Black Incubus Devil Lord had no chance to act. The green flame was everywhere. Under its attack, she couldn't get an inch nearer to Wang Ting. Slash, slash, slash. The green flame kept rubbing against her body, causing green smoke to float from all over. If she didn't react in time, she would have been covered by the flame. Black Incubus Devil Lord, who had beaten the general stage human martial warriors until they had no chance of resisting, was in a disheveled state. Dan Taixian, Gorlin, and many others were dumbfounded. They thought that it would be a feat if the array could hold back Black Incubus Devil Lord for a few seconds. No one expected Black Incubus Devil Lord to land in such a helpless state after the compounding effects of Wang Teng's methods. This was incredible. This young man must be a bug. Would he be able to get rid of Black Incubus Devil Lord without us? Lord Yang asked with a strange expression. That would be great, a general stage martial warrior said. If that brat can kill Black Incubus Devil Lord, I'll treat him to some drinks, a general stage martial warrior with a beard said in his rough voice. The moment he finished speaking, he came up with a better idea. Anyway, that young man isn't married, right? Coincidentally, he's the same age as my daughter. Phut, shameless. Your daughter is only 13 years old. What do you mean by the same age? The other general stage martial warriors couldn't bear to hear him. Shameless. Haha, that young lad seems to be around 18 years old. They are both less than 20, so they are of the same age. The martial warrior with a beard ignored their remarks. My daughter is 18 years old. She's the same age as him. Your daughter isn't the first in the queue. Oh, you're making me irritated. Are you trying to snatch him from me? Snatch? Who doesn't have any thoughts about this talent? Wang Ting. Lord Yang and Dan Taixian stared absent-mindedly at the general stage martial warriors as they started quarreling on the spot for such a weird reason. Many crows flew past their heads. Are you seriously arguing over your son-in-law at this life-or-death moment? Also, your daughter is only 13 years old. Why are you pushing her out? Is this how you act like a father? Lord Yang and Dan Taixian didn't know what to say. They ignored the idiots and stared intently at the array, feeling extremely nervous. At the same time, the rune masters were amazed when they saw the power of the green flame. This must be a flame made from the essence of the world. They were entirely sure now and extremely jealous. Master Karl suddenly opened his mouth. Master Gorlin, I have a request that you must agree to. Master Gorlin, I have a request too. I don't know if I should say it. Master Cha Shu knew what Master Carl wanted to say, so he joined in the conversation. Master Gorlin, I have a bold thought. The other rune masters started speaking up one by one. Gorlin glanced at them from the corner of his eyes and replied indifferently, there's no need to continue. I'm not listening. The rune masters wanted to continue, but they suddenly heard a loud roar from the array. Roar. Black Incubus Devil Lord was infuriated. A tremendous change started occurring to her hourglass figure. 1. Chapter 485, Appalling Devil Transformation. Black Incubus Devil Lord was enveloped by dense black light. The black light got brighter and brighter. It was like a black sun enlarging gradually. Black Incubus Devil Lord kept expanding like an inflated balloon. Her purple hair danced in the air even though there was no wind. As her body grew bigger, her hair became thicker too. They appeared like pythons growing on her head. At the same time, a pair of sharp horns appeared on her head. They gave off a cold glint. Sharp fangs also appeared at the edge of her lips, like 2 rows of saws. It was frightening. This is, Dan Taixian and the other martial warriors squinted as they stared intently at Black Incubus Devil Lord. Something scary was about to happen. The rune masters turned grave too. The atmosphere was tense. Chaos suddenly occurred on the battlefield below. Devil transformation. The Lord is undergoing devil transformation. Run. These humans are dead. They managed to force the Lord to this stage. We're all going to die. The ones causing the disturbance weren't the humans but the dark apparitions. They abandoned the humans and started escaping frantically in fear while screaming. The humans were dumbstruck. What just happened? Did the dark apparitions go crazy? What the hell was devil transformation? It sounded scary. At this moment, the humans couldn't care less about the dark apparitions who were scurrying away. They looked up at the sky at the black ball of light that kept squirming and expanding. 2 balls of eerie red light suddenly lit up on the surface of this ball. An evil, chaotic, and messy aura swept the surroundings. Those were 2 huge eyeballs. There were blood capillaries covering the eyeballs, and they were shining with a red light. They weren't like human eyeballs. Instead, they looked strange and frightening. The humans below started to feel lost. Their minds were affected, and they got hypnotized. Don't look. The rune masters were sensitive to spiritual fluctuations, so they immediately noticed what was wrong. They shouted in a hurry. A cold snort was heard. Then, an extremely powerful spiritual power spread out from the middle of the array to its surroundings. It collided with the chaotic spiritual wave. Boom. An invisible spiritual power collision formed a circular impact wave. What is this spiritual power? Gorlin and the others were dumbfounded. They looked at the source of this wave in shock. It came from Wang Ting. That spiritual power had obviously exceeded the Emperor Realm. Imperial Realm spirit. It must have reached the Imperial Realm. How was this possible? Gorlin and the others were in disbelief. They knew how hard it was to attain this stage. Numerous rune masters worked hard their entire life, but they couldn't reach it. Yet, the young Wang Ting had already entered this realm. What had they been doing their entire life? No one would be able to accept this. Close your eyes. While the rune masters were immersed in astonishment, they heard Wang Teng's voice. Countless human martial warriors below woke up in horror. After hearing Wang Teng's words, they closed their eyes without any hesitation. The general stage martial warriors were powerful, so their spirit wasn't weak. They didn't get affected by the chaotic spiritual power. They looked at the expanding Black Incubus Devil Lord seriously. Devil transformation? Everyone was shocked. They had never seen this transformation before, so they didn't know what would happen next. However, they knew that it wasn't a good thing. Wang Ting squinted slightly. He followed the Lei Tang physique and the lightning force in his body was operating at its prime. Boom. Bolts of lightning struck his body. Wang Ting continued to gather lightning force, especially after he saw the devil transformation. He felt that the lightning force in the array wasn't enough. More. Boom. Silver snakes danced crazily as they plummeted from the sky and entered the Thousand Thunder Annihilation Array. The lightning force in the array turned more violent. Wang Teng didn't wait for death. He controlled the Yi-wood melting fire array and submerged Black Incubus Devil Lord in the green flames. Roar! A loud bellow came from the ball of black light immediately. The black glow started compressing before finally exploding. Boom! As the green flames on the surface dispersed, the true form of Black Incubus Devil Lord below was revealed. What kind of appearance was this? It was indescribable. Her body seemed like a mashed-up mixture of many pieces of decomposing flesh. They were squirming around, and there were lines of meat hair drooping down. On the part where the head was supposed to be, the purple python-like hair danced furiously with a crimson pair of eyeballs embedded in it. Saliva dripped down her opened mouth, revealing the sharp row of teeth. This was entirely different from the beautiful lady she was a moment ago. Blarg! How disgusting! Wang Teng couldn't look straight at it. That appearance was just too challenging. Fortunately, he didn't have any improper thoughts towards her. If not, he might get nightmares. Indeed, these dark apparitions were all monsters. Devil transformation. So this was a devil transformation. Wang Teng turned serious. He could feel powerful and chaotic energy in her body. It was strong enough to level everything within a 10 kilometers radius to the ground. Human, tell me your name. Black Incubus Devil Lord slowly opened her mouth. Her voice was full of evilness. Wang Ting looked at her and said, Wang Ting, very good, you should die without any regrets since you forced me to such a state. Black Incubus Devil Lord's voice was cold and indifferent. It was filled with contempt. She seemed like a mighty god looking down at them. A mocking smile appeared at the edge of Wang Ting's lips. He kept quiet and pointed at the sky. Boom! Multiple bolts of lightning shot out from the array and gathered in one location. Die! Black Incubus Devil Lord cut through the flame and opened her mouth as she charged towards Wang Teng. Her huge body squirmed and moved. It seemed to have turned into a huge mouth, wanting to swallow Wang Teng whole. Wang Teng's gaze flickered. He controlled all the green flames around him and formed a huge net. He threw the net at the dark apparition. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Black Incubus Devil Lord didn't evade it. Instead, she directly bumped into the net. Green smoke floated up from her body and shrouded her. The flesh on Black Incubus Devil Lord's body turned into black smoke after getting burned by the green flame. It twirled around her before merging into her body again. Then, the flesh on her body squirmed and expanded continuously. The cycle repeated. What on earth is this? A hint of astonishment finally appeared in Wang Ting's mind. This current form of Black Incubus Devil Lord was strange. He couldn't imagine how she did it. Wang Ting gritted his teeth. He could only place his hope on the lightning force, hoping that he would be able to destroy her by its formidable power. In the sky, there was an area that was filled with thick lightning force. As more and more lightning force congregated, it gradually turned into a majestic lightning beast. Chapter 486, Heavenly Might. As Wang Ting operated the Thousand Thunder Annihilation Array to its maximum, multiple bolts of lightning struck down and congregated at a certain spot. The lightning was glaring, its power magnificent. Amidst the bolts of lightning, a giant lightning beast that looked like an ancient mythical creature took shape. It looked similar to a Kirin. Made of lightning, it appeared divine and majestic as it gazed down at the world. Roar! The roar of this ancient mythical creature resounded in the air. Hiss! The people below gasped in awe when they saw this scene. Did Wang Teng create that? Kong Li exclaimed uncontrollably as she looked at the majestic lightning beast in the sky. This fellow is indeed a rare talent. Niu Li's eyes shimmered. He was staggered. He remembered that when Wang Ting had just arrived in Black Sparrow Troop, the instructor leading them reminded him that this fellow wasn't an ordinary person. The subsequent events proved that this was true. The moment he entered the military, he defeated an outstanding 7-star soldier-level talent in the army, Major Yuan, embarrassing him greatly. Then, he uncovered the scheme of the dark apparitions and achieved his first merit. It was unexpected. However, compared to the situation now, those were just trivial matters. He was controlling 2 huge arrays alone to resist Black Incubus Devil Lord. Even the 12 master-level rune masters had become his background. All these were astonishing enough if it had happened to a famous formidable warrior, much less on a young man who hadn't reached 20. To be able to reach this stage at his age made him exceptionally outstanding. Yuan Xian stood beside Kong Li. There was only amazement left in his gaze. He didn't think of comparing himself with Wang Teng anymore. That fellow was a monster. Competing with him was equivalent to burning his fingers. How is that troublesome fellow so strong? The purple lightning reflected in Xiezueya's eyes. There was a tall figure standing amidst the lightning. He looked like the reincarnation of the god of lightning. This scene left a deep impression on her mind. Wang Teng's subordinates were also widening their eyes in surprise. Was that their leader? He was so powerful. They knew that Wang Ting was a talented martial warrior, but they didn't know that he was inhumanely powerful. This was almost heaven-defying. Dan Taixian and the other general stage martial warriors were speechless from bewilderment. Even they felt terrified by the lightning beast and didn't dare to underestimate it. This was enough to prove how shocking Wang Teng's deed was. What a strong presence. I'm afraid that general stage warriors won't be able to escape from this lightning beast. Finally, the general stage martial warriors regained their senses and muttered to themselves. This young man is indeed a rare talent in this world. There might not be another one for a few thousand years. The general stage martial warrior with a beard sighed. What a pity. Why don't we have such a talented youngster in our Xingwu continent? Some martial warriors found it a pity. They were looking at the rise of an unmatched talent, but it had nothing to do with them. It was like losing a few billion. Dan Taixian suddenly felt a little extra when she heard her comrades praising her disciple. This young brat improved too quickly. She was going to get surpassed by him very soon. At this moment, Dan Taixian felt depressed. Roar! Black Incubus Devil Lord bellowed and screamed as she struggled to charge out from the big net made of green flame. The swollen and huge body rolled towards Wang Teng. The rune masters and the general stage martial warrior were flabbergasted. The current Black Incubus Devil Lord was eerie and frightening. Dan Taixian and the others could feel that she was many times stronger than her previous form. If they fought with Black Incubus Devil Lord again, they wouldn't be able to last until the rune masters activated the array. Yet, they couldn't be of any help even though they knew that Black Incubus Devil Lord was dangerous. They weren't rune masters. They would only cause trouble if they entered the array recklessly. While Black Incubus Devil Lord moved towards him oppressively, Wang Teng remained calm. He indifferently stared ahead. The next instant, the green flame gathered once again in front of him. Then, it flew towards the huge body of Black Incubus Devil Lord. Boom! The powerful green flames slammed violently into Black Incubus Devil Lord's body, knocking her back for more than 10 meters. She howled in pain as her flesh got burned piece by piece. They turned into black smoke and entered her body once again. Wang Teng didn't relax for an instant. He controlled the lightning force and made sure they flowed out of the array continuously. 3 balls of lightning appeared once again in the sky. Everyone was flabbergasted when they saw this scene. They thought that forming one lightning beast was Wang Teng's limit. However, that was just the start. How far was he going to go? Gorlin and the other rune masters exchanged glances with one another, their gazes filled with astonishment. But the next moment, they instilled their spiritual power into the array and worked hard to operate the array together with Wang Teng. Wang Teng's gaze flickered. He felt some pressure being lifted from him. With the help of the 12 rune masters, more and more terrifying bolts of lightning started gathering. The 3 balls of lightning expanded furiously as if they were brewing something. But he still needed time. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions were heard continuously as the green flame blocked the furious and violent Black Incubus Devil Lord. She was getting closer and closer. The 2 crimson eyeballs glared at Wang Ting with evilness and madness. Wang Ting frowned. That gaze made him uncomfortable. He couldn't find a phrase to describe it. It was like a mentally ill patient, but it was more chaotic, disordered, and evil. She was like a person who had multiple mental illnesses and turned into an evil monster in the end. Black Incubus Devil Lord noticed Wang Ting's gaze. She opened her huge and hideous mouth and gave Wang Ting a smile. Wang Ting's mind was invaded, and an evil spirit seeped into the depth of his mind. His expression changed. The Imperial Realm spiritual power in his mind exploded instantly. Boom! A vast and endless spirit rolled over, destroying all the negative emotions and shattering them into pieces. A flash of surprise appeared in Black Incubus Devil Lord's eyes, while anger seethed in her heart. Why? Why? Why was this young human so strong? This was impossible. Die! 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 Black Incubus Devil Lord's spirit turned into a mess. She couldn't care about the green flame on her body anymore. She exploded and turned into numerous small fragments of meat, shooting towards Wang Ting. Once the huge blob of flesh was divided into pieces, it instantly got burned by the green flame in midair. This time, the wisps of black smoke were swallowed by the green flames before they could return to the main body. Still, a large portion arrived in front of Wang Ting. Be careful! Dan Taixian, Gorlin, and many others screamed in shock. Wang Ting's expression changed as well. He didn't expect Black Incubus Devil Lord to be so crazy. She was willing to sacrifice herself to injure him. He didn't have the time to think, though. He used his spiritual power to move the array quickly. Roar! The lightning beast in the sky bellowed. It moved its body and soared down. It seemed to have turned into a bolt of purple lightning traveling through space amidst all the lights. It appeared in front of Wang Ting like a loyal guardian beast and pounced on those meat pieces. Boom! Thunder echoed in the air. The force was frightening. Unexpectedly, the meat pieces screamed and hissed in pain. They sounded like multiple people groaning. The voice was chilling and pierced right into one's heart. Dan Taixian and the others frowned. They felt their heads hurting and swelling. The human martial warriors started bleeding from the ears. They hurriedly covered their ears with painful expressions. Roar! The roars of the lightning beasts were heard once again. It overlapped with the screams of the meat pieces, dispelling them. However, the lightning beast had used up all its lightning force and disappeared from the world. After some time, the lightning dissipated. Even the voices were gone. There was an eerie silence. Everyone scanned the array, looking for signs of Black Incubus Devil Lord. Is she dead? This was what everyone was thinking. They were all filled with anticipation. Black Incubus Devil Lord had brought catastrophe to the world every time she appeared. She left nightmares to the human race. Everyone who had heard of Black Incubus Devil Lord would feel fearful when talking about her. Today, the humans at the scene almost got annihilated. They nearly became another glamorous military exploit of Black Incubus Devil Lord. Fortunately, the ultimate talent, Wang Ting, appeared and turned the tide through his vigorous efforts. If Black Incubus Devil Lord was killed, the human side would be the winner of this war. Everyone held their breaths on tenterhooks, including the general stage martial warriors. That's not right. Black Incubus Devil Lord shouldn't be killed so easily. Lord Yang frowned. Ah! Suddenly, howls of fear were heard from afar. Everyone turned to look in the direction of the sound and saw a frightening scene. Black smoke started rising from the ground. The dark apparitions that had escaped far away got entangled by the black smoke. They flew into the air uncontrollably. The dark apparitions seemed to know what was going to happen. They were shouting in fear. Lord, spare us. No. Lord, spare us. They begged for mercy and struggled with all their might, trying to break free from the black binds. However, it was all to no avail. All of them got dragged towards the huge array. Damn it, Black Incubus Devil Lord isn't dead. Dan Taixian and the others realized something, their expressions turning ugly. Wang Ting shifted his gaze. He saw a crimson eyeball floating in the sky some distance away, staring coldly at him. What strong vitality! Wang Ting felt helpless. He raised his head and looked at the remaining 3 balls of light in the sky. I thought I didn't need to use them, but he'll still have to rely on you in the end. Boom! The lightning congregated, and the 3 lightning balls gradually took shape. At the same time, He remained busy and pointed at the blood-red eyeball. The green flames shot towards it. However, the blood-red eyeball possessed intellect and was extremely sly. It disappeared into space without a trace. Then, it appeared a distance away and stared at Wang Ting mockingly. Numerous dark apparitions flew towards the array while screaming in fear. They were guided to the crimson eyeball by the black smoke. The instant the black smoke touched the crimson eyeball, it became thick and swallowed the dark apparitions. Ah! The screams stopped abruptly. More and more dark apparitions merged into the black smoke with the crimson eyeball at its core. The body expanded once again and squirmed as it transformed into large-sized pieces of flesh. This time, many hideous faces appeared on the flesh. Their eyes and mouths were wide open as if they had suffered tremendous pain before their death. It sent a chill down his spine when he looked at it. Wang Ting frowned. This image was sinister, much worse than the previous appearance of Black Incubus Devil Lord. He found it troublesome. A helpless sigh sounded in his heart. The lightning force in the array wasn't enough. He started using his Lei-Tang physique again without any hesitation. Lightning shot down from the sky and struck his body. He needed more lightning. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. But when the lightning force entered his body, cracks started to appear on his skin. His physical body had endured too much lightning power this time. He had already reached his limit before this, so his body was starting to fall apart. Fresh blood spurted out from the cracks, turning his shirt red. Wang Ting, Dan Taixian, Gorlin, and many others noticed the situation on his side. They started to feel anxious. Wang Ting's situation seemed bad, but they also knew that they could only rely on him now. Damn it, we can't help at all. A general stage martial warrior clenched his fists tightly and gritted his teeth. The other general stage martial warriors were silent too. They couldn't defeat Black Incubus Devil Lord in her previous state, much less after she grew scarier and more powerful. Damn, the cultivation of Lei-Tang physique can't catch up in time. If not, I'd be able to handle this patch of lightning force. Shit. Wang Ting felt helpless, even thinking that he might lose his life here. However, when he glanced around him, his gaze turned firm. As a man, he needed to do what he should do. He had died before, so he wasn't afraid of dying again. Moreover, there were so many people watching him. He must maintain his image. They would laugh at him if he ran away at this crucial moment. All sorts of thoughts flashed through his mind. Then, he smiled and bore with the excruciating pain as he instilled the lightning force into the array. Lightning struck, and thunder roared. The 3 balls of lightning started shining brightly as if they had received some stimulation. They quickly took form. On the other side, another ball of light appeared. It started expanding at a fast speed and caught up with the previous 3 balls of light. Roar! Black Incubus Devil Lord had regained her body by now. Using countless dark apparitions as her body, she had turned even scarier. The numerous faces on her body were all her faces now. They looked at Wang Ting in unison, opening their mouths and spilling black smoke out. Wang Ting's pupils constricted. He hurriedly raised his head. Roar, 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 screech. Almost simultaneously, for different howls and hoots resounded through the entire sky. The 4 balls of light had taken form completely. The lightning dragon raised its head and roared at the sky. The lightning turtle held up the sky with its 4 limbs. The lightning phoenix hooted majestically. The lightning Kirin looked down at the war below. The 4 giant lightning beasts bowed at Wang Ting before landing in the 4 corners of the array. They opened their mouths, and 4 balls of glaring purple lightning glow blossomed from their mouths at the same time. At this moment, a pillar of black glow shot out from Black Incubus Devil Lord's mouth. It came at Wang Ting with a destructive force. The 4 giant lightning beasts stared at it furiously with wide eyes, looking tall and majestic. The 4 rays of purple lightning merged and formed a lightning pillar. It plummeted down and hit the black pillar of light. This was how heavenly might probably looked like. Boom! A terrifying explosion shattered the entire space. Dazzling and harsh light exploded. Chapter 487, Finale. Thunder echoed, and lightning flashed. It was like the dawn of thunderbolt punishment. The thick purple pillar of light collided with the black pillar of light, setting off an earth-shattering explosion. It was impossible to distinguish purple or black at the point of impact. A dazzling light blinded the onlookers. The explosion of the forces formed a terrifying impact wave sweeping through the surroundings. Everyone looked up at the sky in astonishment, with bolts of lightning being reflected in their eyes. Their hearts trembled. This felt like the apocalypse. This attack was no different from the force of heaven and earth. Dan Taixian and the other general stage martial warriors were violently thrown back a few meters from the impact. They were flabbergasted as they stared absent-mindedly at the two light pillars in the sky. The attacks of both sides were so powerful, it was hard to believe. They found it impossible to comprehend. They wouldn't be able to resist this terrifying power for more than 3 seconds either. Also, one of the attackers was a young man less than 20 years old. This was unbelievable. Boom. The explosions echoed in the sky. The two light pillars were at a standstill as a momentary pause happened in the sky. Time and space seemed to have stopped for a second. Roar. Black incubus devil lord roared, and a thick dark force surged out continuously. The black pillar of light blossomed and pushed against the lightning pillar. Wang Teng's expression changed. Lightning force swarmed around him, attracting even more bolts of lightning. They finally became the energy source for the 4 lightning giant beasts. Boom. Thunder shook the eardrums of the spectators. The 4 lightning beasts bellowed at the sky. The purple lightning in their mouths started burning more fiercely. As more lightning force was instilled in the lightning pillar, it expanded and pounced back on the black pillar. Boom. Instantly, the purple pillar was at an advantage. It forced the black pillar down violently. Everyone was elated. They stared at the pillar of light intently and cheered for it in their hearts. They wished that they could help the purple pillar personally to suppress the black pillar. But lightning force was rare. No one at the scene possessed this force. Also, in front of this frightening power, normal general stage martial warriors wouldn't be of much help either. If they jumped in suddenly, they might die from the shockwaves of those pillars of light. The numerous faces on the huge ball of meat below revealed expressions of pain. Their eyes, mouth, nose, blackish-red blood dripped down. It was horrifying. Roar. Black incubus devil lord screeched, madness and evilness shimmering in her crimson eyes. She released all the dark force in her body. The black pillar pushed itself up once again. Everyone felt their hearts lifting up along with the pillar. It was like riding a roller coaster. They almost had a heart attack. Boom. The collision between the two light pillars once again formed an explosion, releasing a scary impact wave. Crack. Crisp cracking sounds were heard. The rune masters' expressions changed suddenly. They looked at the lightning rods they were sitting on. Huge cracks were starting to form on them. Even the extremely durable lightning rod couldn't withstand the impact of the explosion. These cracks spread rapidly. Soon, they covered the entire lightning rod. Bang, bang, bang. The next instant, the lightning rods started exploding one by one. They had no choice but to step out of the array. The Thousand Thunder Annihilation array crumbled as the lightning force spiraled wildly in the array. It had gone completely out of hand. The rune masters were appalled and kept retreating. It was impossible for them to get any closer. How did this happen? Master Karl was bewildered. The attacks were too powerful for the array to handle. Gorlin felt helpless. He stared straight at the middle of the array worriedly. The other rune masters hurriedly looked in the same direction. Their expressions changed slightly, and they felt anxious and agitated. At this moment, Wang Ting was drenched in blood. More and more wounds were appearing on his body. His face was no exception. His skin had started cracking starting from his cheeks to his forehead. Blood flowed down his nose and dripped into his mouth. Damn it, I'm getting disfigured. My handsome face. Damn it, why isn't this monster dead? If she doesn't die soon, I'll be dead. Wang Ting screamed silently in his heart. He felt that he was going to fall soon. His physical body was breaking down, and even his bones were creaking. His expression was ugly. Right, Attribute bubbles. I need more attribute bubbles. Whether it was spirit or force attributes, they were his live savior now. All of his spiritual power was used on the array, but he still had to move some out to sweep the battlefield. He picked up all the attribute bubbles around him. Spirit *23 Dark Force *30 Fire Force *10 Water Force *15 All the bubbles on the battlefield got picked up instantly. They merged into his body without any hesitation. The attribute bubbles, which represented different kinds of power, started to take effect. Wang Ting immediately felt a refreshing stream flowing through his body. The spirit attribute was filling up the dried sea of spiritual power in his mind while the different forces moved through his limbs and nourished his body. The wounds had healed a little. Although this level of healing was negligible, there was at least some effect. It allowed his condition to stop from worsening. Wang Teng glanced at Black Incubus Devil Lord before taking out a huge amount of healing potions from his space ring, pouring them into his mouth directly. These were the medicines he had made personally. He kept the ones that had the best effect, and they finally came in handy now. The moment the dance melted in his mouth, warm energy spread throughout his body. It started repairing his wounds. Wang Teng felt that he had managed to keep himself alive again. He smiled proudly at Black Incubus Devil Lord and said, "Come, let's see who will die first." Black Incubus Devil Lord squinted, her face turning even darker. This human had managed to recover so quickly. How was that possible? How did he do it? Even if he consumed the dance, the serious injuries shouldn't have healed instantaneously. She couldn't understand what was happening. Both parties were almost exhausted. The person who could stand until the end would be the winner. Wang Ting's sudden recovery gave Black Incubus Devil Lord an ominous feeling. She didn't hesitate anymore and released all the forces left in her. Wang Ting turned serious. He felt the array collapsing too. The lightning force in the array had lost control and became extremely violent. Even the 4 giant lightning beasts he formed were showing signs of going out of control. Fortunately, his spirit had reached the Imperial realm, so he managed to forcefully control the 4 giant lightning beasts with his formidable spiritual kinesis. "Come, this will be the last strike. You die, or I die." A ruthless gaze flashed past his eyes. His spiritual kinesis was released in its entirety, and the 4 giant lightning beasts merged into the lightning pillar. Boom! The lightning pillar became twice as big. It pushed the other pillar down fiercely. The sudden change caught Black Incubus Devil Lord off guard. She didn't know that Wang Ting still had such a move up his sleeves. Boom, boom, boom. The black pillar started breaking down. In the end, the lightning power swallowed Black Incubus Devil Lord. No. The numerous faces on the ball of meat screamed in agony. Chapter 488. A name that would be remembered. Boom, boom, boom. Amidst the flashes of lightning, Black Incubus Devil Lord's agonizing screams stopped abruptly. Her meaty body was submerged in the lightning. A frightening aura spread out. Everyone retreated continuously, unable to resist the terrifying shockwave. However, they continued staring at the ball of lightning in front, waiting for the final result with bated breath. The lightning rod in the middle was on the verge of breaking. The walls were already cracked, and only half of the main body remained. It stood there stubbornly. Wang Ting stood on the lightning rod with a pale face and blood all over him. He panted heavily and fixed his gaze at the ball of light in front. He had reached his limit. If Black Incubus Devil Lord didn't die, he had no other methods. Suddenly, he frowned. Glancing around him, his expression changed. The collision of the 2 forces was so powerful that the space around him was starting to become distorted. Cracks appeared, revealing the pitch-black emptiness behind them. When the 2 light pillars collided, the space in this area became unstable. As more collisions occur, it finally shattered. Wang Teng possessed space talent, so he knew that these accidental dimensional rifts were extremely unstable and dangerous. No matter how powerful you were, you couldn't resist a cut from them. Moreover, he was seriously injured and the force in his body was weak. There was no chance of him surviving the cut. Lightning force flew around him violently. If they weren't at such a close distance, he wouldn't have noticed their presence. Hence, Dan Taixian, who was a distance away, didn't know his situation. They couldn't get close to him either. If not, they would have come to reinforce him. After some time, the lightning dissipated, and the ferocious lightning force around him gradually calmed down. Wang Ting looked in front. The other people looked at the spot where Black Incubus Devil Lord was. Dead. Dead. Black Incubus Devil Lord is dead. There was nothing in front. The eerie ball of meat was no longer there. It had disappeared. The strange black smoke that could reform Black Incubus Devil Lord's body also didn't appear. The general stage martial warriors rushed over and scanned the vicinity. They didn't detect any force fluctuations of Black Incubus Devil Lord. Black Incubus Devil Lord was really dead. This was unbelievable, but the truth was laid out in front of them. Wang Ting had killed Black Incubus Devil Lord. After a moment of silence, cheers erupted on the battlefield. They had snatched a victory out of defeat. They had survived the disaster. Only those who experienced it personally understood what this felt like. Everyone was cheering and laughing. As they laughed, tears started falling on their blood-stained faces. Bodies scattered on the battlefield. Many people had been sacrificed. This was the fate of a soldier as well as a martial warrior. They might be used to death, but when they saw their comrades falling, their hearts were still filled with sorrow. Wang Ting heaved a sigh of relief. Exhaustion engulfed his body. He was tired. However, it felt good to be alive. He smiled as he thought about this. Then, he raised his head. The 5-dimensional rifts in the sky seemed to be closing unwillingly. Soon, they disappeared entirely. The clouds dispersed, and a ray of sunlight shone down onto the ground. The battle had ended. All the rune masters and the general stage martial warriors looked at Wang Ting. There were relief, amazement, and admiration in their eyes. At this moment, cheers were heard below. Wang Ting, Wang Ting, Wang Ting. Everyone was shouting Wang Ting's name. He had salvaged the war and saved the humans from getting massacred. Everyone felt grateful towards him. Admiration and respect toward him started to blossom in their hearts. This young man was a rare talent of this century. No one could be compared with him. Whether they were from the Xingwu continent or Earth, they acknowledged him from the bottom of their hearts. Everyone was convinced by his amazing and impressive performance. The young man was exhausted, so he was stooping down. He was covered in blood and was in a disheveled state. Yet in everyone's eyes, he was standing tall and straight. He was giving off a glamorous light that overshadowed everyone. The blood was the symbol of glory and the representation of his military exploits. Wang Ting's name would be remembered in this war. Wang Ting was stunned when he heard people cheering for him. He lowered his head to take a look. Upon seeing everyone's expression, he smiled. He didn't suffer these injuries for nothing. He didn't care about reputation, but he felt happy when he saw so many people surviving the war. With greater power came greater responsibility. In the past, he scoffed at these words, but he seemed to understand them a little now. Let's go. Enjoy everyone's cheer. Dan Taixian looked at him and smiled. Master, I can't move. Wang Ting gave a bitter smile as he raised his hand. They were all shocked. They thought that his injury wasn't serious since he was able to launch the final ultimate attack, but that didn't seem to be the case. He had exhausted all his energy. Even though he was hurt, he still bit the bullet and gave the final blow. His injuries were worse than the general stage martial warriors. Dan Taixian was moved. She wanted to hold him up. Careful. At this moment, a surprised and furious shout was heard. Wang Teng's expression changed at once. He felt a strong wind behind him. There was no time for him to evade and no way to dodge it. He couldn't even turn his body. Bang! Wang Teng didn't see what attacked him. He just felt a strong force hitting his back. He vomited a mouth of blood and was thrown to the left. Multiple dimensional rifts were starting to close up on the left. However, they hadn't disappeared. Wang Teng squinted. If he collided with them, he would die. Without any choice left, He could only activate his space talent to the maximum and break the unstable space. The next instant, his body disappeared into space. "Young man, I will be waiting for you in the Darkland." A cold voice resounded. Then, a blood-red glow flew into the dimensional rift too. Wang Ting, Wang Ting, Dan Taixian, Gorlin, and the other people were dumbstruck. They chased after him quickly, but Wang Ting's figure was already gone. Dan Taixian gritted her teeth and wanted to dash into the dimensional rift. "Are you crazy? Don't." Lord Yang stopped her in a hurry. "Move. He's seriously injured. He will be dead if he falls into the rift." Dan Taixian replied in anger. "You'll die if you go in. This dimensional rift is formed accidentally, so it's a mess inside. General stage martial warriors won't be able to handle it." Lord Yang shook his head and sighed. "Damn it." Dan Taixian clenched her fist tightly and gritted her teeth. She had never felt so powerless. Chapter 489, Wake Up. The sky was as black as night, covered by dark clouds and fog. Layers of grey clouds congregated with no intention of dispersing. No signs of sunlight could be seen in this pitch-black sky. An occasional dark red bolt of lightning flashed across the dark sky. They intertwined with one another and cast a light on the ground. The greyish-black ground was cracked and desolate. It went all the way to the horizon, rough and undulated. The mountain range was carved into the land like a huge scar. The endless greyish-black forest seemed to spread to the end of the world. This entire world exuded a kind of darkness, dark yet mysterious and lacking any breath of life. The thick grey fog veiled the black forest, making it sinister and full of danger. Flashes of crimson lightning struck the earth like poisonous pythons, splitting the huge trees into two right from its waist. The huge tree that was struck started giving off green smoke. However, it didn't light up in flames. The green smoke disappeared after a while, leaving the burnt half of the deadwood on the ground. Moving closer, one could see that the ground was covered with all kinds of plants in weird shapes and sizes. Countless giant trees dotted the forest, covering the sky with their crowns. These trees were all exceptionally big. Many adults were needed to hug the trunk of the trees. Their leaves were flourishing with no gaps in between. The thick roots broke through the soil and crawled on the ground like huge pythons. Thick vines intertwined with one another while plants and mushrooms in weird shapes and sizes filled up the forest ground. Occasionally, one or two strange creatures would dart out from behind the plants. They sized up their surroundings cautiously before disappearing into the shadows between the plants once again. These plants and creatures were used to the dim environment in this dark world. Hence, their skin was dull too. They were either in lifeless white or grey. Also, their growing mechanism was vastly different. In a certain part of the forest, a little black creature was motionlessly lying among the thick bushes that looked like palm leaves. Its eyes flickered dimly as if it was waiting for something. It was extremely patient even though it had laid there for half a day without any gains. Suddenly, a black shadow dashed out from the bushes. The small creature lying in the bushes moved abruptly. Its actions were smooth and skilled like a young leopard. It darted out at almost the same instant. But, splat, it fell into the mire at the side. It wasn't because the ground was too slippery. It was because its two small legs were numb. The black shadow that scurried out of the bushes was a small-sized dark green creature that looked like a lizard. It was stunned when it saw the fishlip creature that fell into the mire. Then, it smirked and disappeared into the forest. It wasn't stupid. It could tell from the fishlip creature's gaze that it wanted to have it for dinner. This was the perfect moment to run away. The little creature struggled to climb up from the mire. It pounced forward unwillingly, but it didn't manage to catch its dinner. It muttered something in frustration before climbing up from the ground. Then, it crouched down and limped towards a part of the forest, disregarding the mud on its body. It was very careful all the way. Also, it was vigilant, so it could always evade the dangers in advance. Finally, it arrived at a hidden hole. The hole was situated below a huge tree. There were many plants and vines covering the entrance, making it hard to notice. It cleared its traces and smell before lifting the bushes and crawling into the hole. This was its small home, a place where it could evade the storm and dangers outside. This was the only place that gave it a sense of security. The hole was quite big. There were many passageways leading to various safe locations. Even if one hole was discovered, it could escape through other exits. It had spent a long time slowly digging and constructing this home and was extremely satisfied with its work. However, it was starting to wonder if it should move houses. 2 days ago, an outsider had barged into its home. However, it couldn't understand how this big creature had entered its home through that small hole. Even the most flexible animal it knew wouldn't be able to squeeze its body into its home without leaving traces around the entrance. It had checked all the holes. There was no sign of damage. Hence, it didn't understand. It was still hesitating and didn't run away immediately or kill the big creature that invaded its space because that big creature seemed to be dead. It couldn't feel any vitality from that big creature. Also, the big creature's body was full of blood and wounds. In his world, no one could survive such a serious injury. It could only be eaten. But that big creature looked similar to it, so it couldn't eat it. The little creature climbed into the cave through the hole. A black figure was curled up at the bottom of the cave. Its eyes were closed, and there was no movement. It looked dead. The little creature squatted beside the black shadow. It lifted its hand and poked the black figure's butt. It muttered, "Why isn't the body decomposing? It's so big. If I drag it out, it'll damage the entrance." It frowned in frustration and sighed loudly. Although it was vigilant, it wasn't experienced. The current situation had exceeded its understanding. Therefore, it couldn't decide what to do. What if it's still alive? Maybe I should move, but I've been searching for 2 days and haven't found a good place to hide. If I leave now, I might get eaten at night. Fear appeared in its eyes as it recalled something frightening. Feeling lost and anxious, it stood up and circled the big creature twice. Then, it kicked the creature angrily. "It's all your fault." It was still furious, so it gave the creature another kick. Bang! The silent black figure suddenly moved after this kick. He slowly opened his eyes. His pupils were pitch black, but they were giving off a bright glow. The little creature had only seen such a bright glow in the night sky before. But, its heart was filled with fear. A chill ran down its spine. It stepped back quietly, pasting its back tightly against the corner of the cave. It tried to hide its body in the shadow and inched towards the entrance of the cave. Unfortunately, reality never followed one's wishes. The 2 bright pupils accurately landed in its direction. Chapter 490, Darkland? Who am I? Where am I? Where am I supposed to be? Wang Teng woke up with his mind in a whirl. For a moment, he couldn't remember anything. He sized up his surroundings instinctively and noticed that this was a dark, humid, narrow, and cramped cave. However, there was a layer of hay spread on the ground, so it wasn't that damp. He wanted to stand up but gave up after a while. This space was too small. It wasn't big enough for him to stand up. He could only bend his body slightly and lean against the walls of the cave. However, this posture made him extremely uncomfortable. Also, as he moved, the multiple wounds on his body got affected. Hiss. The pain caused him to suck in a deep breath. This was so painful. Because of the excruciating pain, he finally remembered what happened before he fainted. Black Incubus Devil Lord wasn't dead. She even dragged him to this damn place. F***K, he risked his life to turn the tides. He thought that he had succeeded, and everyone was cheering his name. It was obvious that something amazing was going to happen to him. He would be welcomed with compliments, admiration, respect. It felt good just thinking about it. But in the end, everything was gone. He was pushed into a dimensional rift and came to this unknown place. Wang Teng sighed uncontrollably in his heart when he thought about this. A formidable warrior like Black Incubus Devil Lord was too hard to deal with. Even though she was forced into a hopeless situation, she still managed to dodge everyone's detection and launched a sneak attack at the last moment. Thinking about it, If he hadn't exhausted his spiritual power and force, he wouldn't have been caught off guard by that black incubus devil lord. It was useless thinking of these things now, though. The most important thing was to understand his current circumstances. He glanced around him and fixed his gaze on the other living creature in the cave. The moment he woke up, he had noticed that little creature. He didn't pay much attention to it because it was too weak. He might be seriously injured now, but he could still kill it with one finger. At this moment, he looked at the little creature and sized it up. When he saw its appearance clearly, he was slightly shocked. It looked like a human child around 6 years old. It was thin and small and covered in mud. There were patches of black and grey on its body. Its hair was dry, yellow, and stuck together. He wondered how long it had been since that creature took a bath. A sour and smelly smell spread in the cave. He frowned uncontrollably. The little creature's heart started jumping violently when it saw Wang Ting looking at it. It regretted not leaving earlier. Now, it was right in front of the tiger's mouth. But it had lived in the forest for a long time, so it wouldn't give up until the last moment. It stood with an offensive air, baring its teeth at Wang Ting and revealing his 2 tiger teeth. A low growl came from its throat. Wang Ting furrowed his brows more violently when he saw its beast-like movements. He said coldly, "Come here. Howl." The little creature felt even more fearful. However, it continued growling at Wang Ting and didn't move forward. Wang Ting felt helpless. He examined his body condition briefly and realized that the only energy he could use was his dark force. He released a strand of dark force to grab the little creature and pull it towards him. "Let me go, let me go." The little creature struggled frighteningly, but it couldn't move. Dark language. Wang Ting was surprised. He suddenly remembered what Black Incubus Devil Lord had said before pushing him into the dimensional rift. She said that she would be waiting for him in Darkland. So, this is the world of the dark apparitions. Wang Ting was in disbelief. He immediately activated his spiritual sight and glanced around him. All he could see was a thick dark force. There were no signs of cultivation in the little creature's body, but faint dark force could be seen all around him. This was a characteristic of someone who had lived in a world filled with dense dark force. Hence, even if this wasn't the Darkland, it must be related to it. All kinds of thoughts flashed past his mind. He opened his mouth calmly and said in dark language, "Don't worry. Answer my questions, and I won't harm you." The little creature understood him. It hesitated, but its survival instinct caused it to nod. Wang Ting nodded happily when he saw the little creature willing to cooperate with him. He asked, "Where is this place?" "Forest." The little creature replied instantly. Wang Ting choked. "What forest?" "A forest is a forest." The little creature looked at him curiously. F***K, is this an idiot? Wang Ting was speechless. Then, he asked a few simple questions to check if this was Darkland. The results were predictable. The little creature was a country bumpkin. Its area of activity was only in this small patch of forest. It was easier to find a pig that could fly than try to understand the world from its mouth. Hence, he threw the little creature to one side and disregarded it. He closed his eyes and started recuperating. The little creature didn't dare to leave. It shrunk in a corner and sized up Wang Ting curiously and fearfully. Wang Ting realized that the battle had left him with some serious injuries. There wasn't a single patch of clean skin on his body. Besides dark force, his other forces were dried up. Only a little spiritual power was left. His head felt heavy, making him extremely uncomfortable. He gave a bitter smile. Then, he used a small strand of spiritual power to enter his space ring and found only 2 bottles of healing dance left. He poured them in his mouth directly. The little creature was stunned. It looked at Wang Ting's hands and then at its hands. It had a serious question. How to make things appear out of nowhere? It copied Wang Ting and stretched its hands out. Then, it stared at its palm. Unfortunately, there was nothing. It was too hungry. It hadn't eaten anything in a day. Thus, when it saw Wang Ting swallowing the 2 bottles of healing dance, it thought that they were some delicious food. The refreshing fragrance of the dance made it salivate too. Wang Teng sat there for a few hours. The night had passed. After a night of recuperation, a part of his injuries was healed. He wouldn't hurt all over when he moved anymore. At the same time, he had managed to replenish some of his spiritual power. He could do some simple spiritual kinesis moves. This gave him some self-protection ability. However, he would still need some time before he recovered fully. As he was thinking about this, his stomach suddenly growled. He took out a piece of star beast meat from his space ring and barbecued it with his weak fire force. After some time, the fragrance spread through the air. The little creature shrugged in its sleep, saliva dripping down the corners of its lips unconsciously. Chapter 491, A Round of Huge Gains. The next moment, the little creature jumped up and stared at the perfectly barbecued meat. Slurp. A clear sound of it gulping down its saliva could be heard coming from its throat. Meat. Delicious food. It stared at the meat in Wang Teng's hand, its eyes filled with desire. He had starved for a whole day and was ravenous. But out of its fear of Wang Teng, it didn't dare move an inch closer. It could only gaze at it from afar. Wang Teng frowned slightly. He didn't fancy the dark apparitions, but the little creature in front of him was different from the dark apparitions he had encountered previously. It looked amicable. He didn't even feel any of the unholy aura that normally surrounded dark apparitions. Unsettled, he tore a piece of meat and threw it to the little creature. In any case, when he was in a coma, he had stayed in its home. That bit of food could be considered rent. Seeing the meat flying over, the little creature lunged at it with its agile body, falling onto the ground after catching it. It didn't seem to feel any pain at all, only caring about stuffing the piece of meat in its mouth. Delicious. It was stunned just as the grilled meat entered its mouth. Its throat moved unconsciously, and the meat slipped down the throat and into its stomach. It was upset that it couldn't savor the taste. It might have been the best thing that it has ever eaten, even though its lifespan was no longer than 7 years. Looking at the remaining piece of meat, it treated it with more care, taking one bite after another. It looked blessed with its eyes closed with bliss. Wang Teng munched on his meat and looked over. He wanted to curse at it, but looking at how it was enjoying the meat, he didn't know why he couldn't. In the human world, a young child would grow up happily in the comfort of his home, but this little creature was already trying to survive in the wild. If he didn't know what it was, Wang Teng might have helped it. After all, he owed it a favor. Finishing his meat, Wang Teng's eyes flashed as he looked at his spoils of war. He was dealt a huge blow in this war and had suffered heavy injuries. If he didn't have enough loot to compensate for that, he would be in real despair. Pulling out his attributes panel, data started to appear in front of him. First was the spirit and enlightenment attributes. Enlightenment, Imperial Realm, 21,3000, Spirit, Imperial Realm, 53,3000. Aside from his spirit attribute, even his enlightenment attribute had reached the Imperial Realm. This was a great leap. His enlightenment had improved, reaching truly terrifying levels. Only a handful of others had such levels of enlightenment. At least when he was collecting attributes on the battlefield, he had managed to pick up a few Emperor Realm enlightenment bubbles. This meant that there were very few people with Emperor Realm enlightenment to begin with, much less those with Imperial Realm. Furthermore, enlightenment was basically an innate talent and had much to do with what one already had at birth. Treasures that could increase the enlightenment levels might exist, but they would definitely be few and rare. For Wang Teng to be able to reach the Imperial Realm all the way from normal enlightenment was unimaginable. Wang Teng already knew that his spirit had reached the Imperial Realm, but it was now at 53 points instead of the few measly points he had previously. It meant that he collected a large amount of spirit attributes in that last wave. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to have so many points. 53 points were not something to be underestimated. The value of an Imperial Realm spirit point was worth 10 times that of the Emperor Realm spirit. Wang Teng smiled bitterly. It was already difficult trying to increase his Emperor Realm spirit, and it would be even more so now. After all, too few people had attained the Imperial Realm spirit. He shook his head and continued looking at his attributes panel. Battlefield awareness, 1239,000, 9-star, Wang Teng was stunned. His battlefield awareness had reached the 9-star level. Before participating in the war, he was only at the 4-star level. It was ridiculous for him to have jumped 5 levels. Even veterans might not have a 9-star battlefield awareness. Only those who lived and survived on the battlefield for several decades could attain this level. Of course, generals like Dan Taixian were another matter altogether. After all, they were skillful, talented, and had a wealth of battle experience. Naturally, their battlefield awareness wouldn't be low. Wang Ting shut his eyes and realized that in the depths of his mind, there was a fuzzy memory of his combat experiences, like efficient combat skills and killer moves, increasing his combat prowess. He opened his eyes, and his gaze flickered. It was an appropriate time for him to gain such combat experience. With his current strength, if his combat experience was too low, it wouldn't be put to good use. Now that it had increased, with a variety of strong battle techniques, his strength would multiply. Further down was the talent section. Basically, everything was advanced stage talents. His 5 force elements had all increased and were almost maxed out. Weapon talents, such as swordsmanship, archery, marksmanship, had greatly improved. Among them, marksmanship and stick talents had just become advanced stages. There was another advanced stage talent that was originally intermediate stage. It seemed that he had picked this up during the course of battle. The 2 most important talents were left. The space talent and the 8 arms devil physique. Space, 4125 10,000 8 arms devil physique, 36,000. There was a great increase of almost 1,000 points in the space talent. This was naturally attributed to the numerous space attribute bubbles that had dropped when the dark apparitions were opening the dimensional rifts. Now, Wang Ting's space talent was no longer insignificant. He could now perform some spatial moves with ease. As for the 8 arms devil physique, it was from the 8 arms devil general, Zers. He was the second general stage dark apparition that Wang Teng had slain. He had received a lot from him as well. However, the 8 arms devil physique was far from Demon Lotus Poison Body's level. The difference was almost 4,000 attribute points. Of course, for Wang Teng, the 8 arms devil physique was a rare talent that could increase his strength, life, and restoration. However, it was a pity that his wind, lightning, and ice talents did not increase. Not many people had these 3 talents. His wind talent was stuck at the intermediate stage. Wang Ting shook his head with regret and looked at the force section. Metal force, 8109,000, 9-star, wood force, 7959,000, 9-star, water force, 7639,000, 9-star, fire force, 8239,000, 9-star, earth force, 7710,000, 9-star. Wang Ting was stunned to discover that his 5 force elements had reached the 9-star level, and they were only 1,000 points from reaching the general stage. Those 1,000 points would have been a huge gap for him to close in the past, but now, it was only a matter of killing a few advanced rank star beasts. With his 9-star soldier-level abilities, that was a piece of cake. Wang Teng wasn't stumped and continued looking at the other force attributes. Wind force, 2153,000, 5-star, dark force, 696010,000, 10-star, lightning force, 1359,000, 9-star. There was an increase in his wind force, but it still remained 5-star. Such a power level would be considered low for the current Wang Teng. But at least there was an increase, unlike ice force and poison force, which had no change at all. It was exasperating. Wang Teng frowned and decided that if he had a chance, he would focus on increasing those attributes. After all, it didn't matter if it was wind, ice, or poison. They were all powerful force attributes. Not using them would be a waste. What shocked Wang Teng was the rise in his dark force and lightning force attributes. The increase was just too much. His dark force had only reached the 10-star level when he picked up bubbles from the Lycan General. He didn't expect to collect over 6,000 attribute points after returning to the battlefield. Wang Teng couldn't help taking a deep breath. Although the dark force didn't run through his entire spine like how it would when it reached the general stage, the force level did reach 10-star. Moreover, he had experienced a general stage battle. It appeared that the general stage dark force was real. Thinking of this, Wang Ting's eyes narrowed slightly. His other forces were at 9-star, but his dark force had reached the general stage. How ironic. But that was okay. If he was really in the Darkland, the general stage dark force would be the most important means of protecting himself. Then, his gaze fell on the lightning force, making him delightfully surprised. The increase of the lightning force was frightening too. It went all the way from 2-star to 9-star soldier level, passing 7 levels at once. This was unexpected. He didn't think that using the 1000 Thunder Annihilation Array for his cultivation would give him such huge gains. If he could do this again a few more times, he would be able to reach the general stage easily. The 13-star general stage wasn't a dream, of course, he only dared to think about it. He had first-hand experience of the pain of lightning force gushing into his body. He could die. Moreover, he had used the modified version of the 1000 Thunder Annihilation Array, which included a 13th lightning rod. He also risked his life to attract the lightning force, the reason why it had this effect. The normal 1000 Thunder Annihilation Array might only allow him to reach the 7-star soldier level. It got harder and harder to level up as one went further. The force attributes required would increase, so even if Wang Teng relied on the array to help him, the effects would be smaller. However, Wang Teng's ability had risen tremendously. All his 5-element forces had reached the 9-star soldier level. Wang Teng was confident that he could fight with a general stage martial warrior now. Actually, he had already attempted it. He killed the 8-arms Devil General when he was at the 9-star soldier level. Of course, the 8-arms Devil General was hurt at that time. Then, he looked at this scripture and battle techniques. Among the battle techniques, the most precious one was the Darkness Clone technique. This was a special technique given by Black Incubus Devil Lord. It could create clones and was an exceptionally practical scripture. He had also received the 7-star emerging scripture from a human martial warrior. It came with the 7-star conscious, and the power was astonishing. 7-star emerging scripture, 101,000, first level. Besides this, there were a few other powerful and rare scriptures and battle techniques. Golden Heaven Earth scripture, an earth element sky rank scripture. Scorching Sun cremating scripture, a fire element sky rank scripture. Jade Sea Tide scripture, a water element sky rank scripture. Green Dragon Seeking Wood scripture, a wood element sky rank scripture. Golden Star Fist, a metal element sky rank fist technique. Black Wing Devil Mutilation Strike, a dark element sky rank blade technique. Netherworld Ghost Claw, a dark element sky rank claw technique. Wang Teng's eyes shimmered, feeling elated. These scriptures and battle techniques were all sky rank. He suddenly remembered that many general stage warriors had died in the war. This included human martial warriors and dark apparitions. These sky rank scriptures and battle techniques might have come from them. Among his 5 elements, only his metal element scripture wasn't at the sky rank. This was great for his normal cultivation. The higher the level of his scripture, the faster his speed of cultivation. Of the remaining battle techniques, the Golden Star Fist was a metal element fist technique, the Black Wing Devil Mutilation Strike was a dark element blade technique, and the Netherworld Ghost Claw was a dark element claw technique. Most importantly, all 3 battle techniques came with their conscious. Golden Star Fist, 651,000, first level. Black Wing Devil Mutilation Strike, 581,000, first level. Netherworld Ghost Claw, 801,000, first level. The consciouses of these 3 battle techniques were all at the first level. They weren't high, but having a conscious and not having it made a huge difference. After receiving so many sky rank scriptures and battle techniques, Wang Teng started to look down on those at the lower level. He was getting arrogant. This was a huge gain, however, to him, those non-sky rank techniques weren't useless. He could know the rest of their kind by analogy, and they might be useful in the future. Finally, there was the one and only unexpected gain, the Emerald Glazed Flame. He had a deeper understanding of this divine fire through the war. Even Black Incubus Devil Lord was afraid of the Emerald Glazed Flame and had suffered in its encirclement. Wang Ting started to view this flame with higher importance. He could instill the emerald-glazed flame into his fire element battle techniques. That way, he could catch his opponents off guard and raise the impact of his battle techniques, killing two birds with one stone. Wang Ting touched his chin and wondered to himself. He loved to surprise his enemies and catch them off guard the most. When he thought of the emerald-glazed flame, he suddenly remembered Little White and the metal armor flaming scorpion. He had left them at the birthplace of the emerald-glazed flame because he thought he could go back and fetch them after the war ended. He never expected this to happen. He was roaming in a strange land and didn't know when he could go back. Hence, he couldn't care about those two creatures temporarily. Fortunately, the metal armor flaming scorpion had given up its spiritual flame, so he wasn't worried it would create trouble. As for Dan Taixian and the others, he had no choice. He hoped that they trusted him to remain alive and didn't hold a funeral for him, marking him as a martyr. If not, his parents would be heartbroken. Wang Ting sighed and shook his head helplessly. He went through everything that had happened in his mind. Finally, he let out a long sigh. He wasn't an emotional person, so he stopped thinking too much and closed his eyes. He started recuperating. Chapter 492, Major General on Earth, in a certain meeting room. The atmosphere in the room was extremely heavy. Many people sat around the long table, and there were males and females of all ages, from 30 years old to elders with white hair. Everyone gave off a refined and competent vibe. Also, these people were all sitting up straight. The emblems on their shoulders were all crimson stars. Crimson star meant that they were at least a brigadier. Dan Taixian and Xiao Nanfeng were present too. There were 3 elders sitting at the top. One of them was the mysterious and skinny elder who had watched the national #1 martial arts competition with Dan Taixian and Xiao Nanfeng. One of the elders was muscular. His hair and beard were white, but his aura was oppressive. It gave people a lot of pressure. The last elder seemed refined and easygoing. He looked like an amiable grandfather living in the neighborhood. There was silence in the meeting room for some time. Then, the muscular elder in military attire said, "The dark apparitions have been getting more and more restless recently. The war in Star Maple City occurred before we settled the one in the north. This isn't optimistic." Everyone's expression turned even more serious. No one spoke for a moment. "We have been vigorously promoting martial arts in recent years. The country has spent a lot of resources in this aspect too, but we aren't left with much time." The refined and easygoing elder shook his head helplessly. "Take a walk with me after the meeting ends," the skinny elder, who had his eyes closed to rest, said calmly. The other 2 elders exchanged glances and nodded. While the 3 elders were conversing, no one else spoke. However, when they heard the 3 elders confirming this issue within a few sentences, they immediately understood what they meant, and their eyes shimmered. Based on their words, they were probably going to do something huge. They wondered if more resources were going to be allocated to them. After all, the dark apparitions were running rampant, and the martial warriors had suffered heavy losses. They were having a hard time. If they wanted to resist the dark apparitions, they needed to groom more powerful martial warriors. Just as everyone was in deep thoughts, the refined and easygoing elder scanned the crowd before speaking in a heavy tone. "We might have won the war in Star Maple City, but it's a narrow win. From what you've said, Black Incubus Devil Lord isn't dead?" He looked at Dan Taixian. The other 2 elders turned in her direction too. They placed high importance on this issue. "Yes, Black Incubus Devil Lord isn't dead. My disciple was pushed into a dimensional rift by her. She even left a few words for him." Everyone at the scene heard it. Her gaze was gloomy as she nodded and repeated Black Incubus Devil Lord's final words. Everyone was stunned. "Your disciple was forced into the Darkland?" the muscular elder at the side asked in astonishment. "I'm afraid so," Dan Taixian said. "It's too dangerous in the Darkland. There isn't much chance of survival," the refined and easygoing elder said with a grim expression. Dan Taixian turned grave. "He should be alive. Wang Ting has a spiritual pet. We can confirm if he's still alive through it. After Wang Ting got pushed into the dimensional rift, Little White flew to Star Maple City to find him because he hadn't returned for a long time. Dan Taixian saw it, and Little White recognized her too. After some communication, she confirmed that Wang Ting was still alive. Oh. The three elders looked at each other in surprise. It's good that he's alive. There's still a chance. The refined and easygoing elder nodded. Controlling the entire situation, killing a general stage dark apparition, resisting Black Incubus Devil Lord to the limit. All these feats are impressive. This talent is a treasure of the human race. The muscular elder nodded. He reversed an adverse situation and changed the tides with all his might. The human race needs a hero like him. If there's a need, use all efforts to save him and bring him back. We need to view his talent with importance. The skinny elder chimed in. Everyone was shocked by their words. Their appraisal of Wang Ting was so high. They were willing to use all efforts to save him. That meant that they hoped Wang Ting could come back alive. This was a signal that the higher authorities wanted to put him in an important position. But thinking about it, it wasn't strange. Most of them were guarding the other areas and didn't participate in the war. However, they had received the report of the Star Maple City War. All of them were clear about Wang Ting's performance during the war. Mind you, they felt that no one in this room could have done what Wang Ting did. This young man stuck in the Darkland was extremely outstanding. Wang Teng's ability was equivalent to an army. Also, during special situations, he might be more important than an army. If he could be saved, it would be a piece of good news for the humans. No one objected. I heard that Wang Teng was given the title of an honorary baron in the Xingwu continent. The refined and easygoing elder asked once again. During the Yang City battle, Wang Teng formed a deep friendship with the Xingwu continent. They seemed to have high hopes of his talent and gave him the title of an honorary baron. This time, to thank him for his contribution to the Star Maple City War, they made an exception and bestowed him the title of an honorary earl, Dan Taixian explained. Wang Teng is bridging our relationship with the Xingwu continent, the refined and easygoing elder exclaimed. Since the Xingwu continent is benevolent and gave him the title of an honorary earl, we shouldn't disappoint our own man. I think that Wang Ting's ability should have reached the general stage. Along with his military exploits, it makes sense to raise him to a major general. Everyone was dumbfounded. Major general. How old was Wang Ting? An 18-year-old major general seemed so unreal. Isn't a major general title a bit too much? Someone asked cautiously. That's right. An 18-year-old major general might cause a huge commotion. This might not be good for him. Another person agreed. This will push him into the limelight. Dan Taixian frowned but remained quiet. As Wang Ting's master, it was inappropriate for her to say anything now. However, she believed that they would give Wang Ting a satisfying answer. The crowd spoke up continuously as they discussed this issue. After they had quietened down, the skinny elder finally said in a calm but commanding tone, "This is a special time, so we must make exceptions. It has been decided." Everyone exchanged glances with each other. However, no one spoke. The intention was clear. There was no room for discussion. Wang Ting had already gained the favor of the elders. If he came back, he would enjoy a meteoric rise. Chapter 493. After cleaning up, he was still a young and handsome boy. Wang Ting had stayed in this dark and damp hole for 5 days. If he hadn't, he would never know that he was a strong person who could withstand the loneliness and the terrible environment. Yes, he was mentally strong. To survive, he bore with this environment for such a long time. He respected himself. At this moment, he could feel that his injuries were almost healed. He had just received the 8 Arms Devil physique not long ago, so he was extremely comfortable in this environment filled with dark force. His healing ability had also seen improvement. Also, the combined effect of the 8th-level Devil scripture and the Lei physique meant that his recovery ability was much more powerful compared to a normal person. Especially the Lei physique. After using the 1000 Thunder Annihilation Array to cultivate it, His body had become extremely tough from all the training. Wang Ting sat on the ground and clenched his fists. He felt that his punch was powerful enough to kill a 9-star soldier-level martial warrior. Actually, if he wasn't so seriously injured, he could shorten his recovery time by half with all the abilities he had now. Wang Ting wanted to leave this small cave. If he stayed any longer here, he would get claustrophobia. Boom! He stretched his hand out abruptly and punched the wall above his head. The roots of the giant tree and the thick soil flew into the air and splattered everywhere. Wang Ting moved his body and appeared 10 meters away from the cave. None of the soil landed on him. However, the poor little creature in the cave suffered. It had been living a comfortable life recently. Wang Ting gave it delicious food every day, so it didn't need to go out and hunt. It lay in its little home, eating and sleeping every day. Life was so relaxing. It had grown fatter. Unfortunately, after Wang Ting recovered, it wouldn't be able to enjoy this life again. It was sleeping soundly when it suddenly heard a loud explosion. It opened its eyes in fear and jumped up from the ground. Before it could react, it saw its little home getting destroyed. A large amount of soil and grass slammed down from the sky. Bang! A huge rock coincidentally smashed onto its head. It hissed in pain, tears starting to well up in its eyes. The little creature absent-mindedly looked at its home, which had turned into a well. It could see the sky when it raised its head. It started searching for the being that took over its little home for so many days. Finally, it saw that big fellow 10 meters away. Wang Ting suddenly felt a sense of regret when he saw the little creature's innocent eyes. Damn it, he forgot that this place was its house. Awkwardness floated in the air. Wang Ting pretended that he didn't do anything and raised his head to look at the sky. The little creature crawled up from the cave. It swore that it would have fought with that big creature if it hadn't eaten his delicious food. Wang Ting felt his head hurt. He wanted to leave this place to find a way to return to the human world, but what should he do with the little creature? He hadn't come up with a plan yet. Throw it here? That seemed a little cruel. After a few days of interaction, Wang Ting realized that the little creature didn't seem like a dark apparition. If it was a dark apparition, he could leave it here without feeling any burden. But if it wasn't, Wang Ting couldn't leave it alone since it had lent him its house for the past few days. Wang Ting lowered his head and saw the little creature standing 5 meters away. It was neither too far nor too close. It was staring at him intently with its black eyes. "Follow me," Wang Ting said calmly with a stern face. He didn't care about the little creature's response and walked into the forest directly. The little creature's eyes brightened. It hurriedly rushed forward to catch up with Wang Ting. Wang Ting released his spiritual kinesis to sense the environment in the grey forest. He was searching for dangerous creatures and wanted to find clean water. He was extremely dirty and smelly and needed to find a place to bathe. The little creature behind him was pitch black and smelled sour and pungent. He wondered how long it had been since it last bathed. If someone saw them, he might think that they had come out to beg. The little creature followed behind Wang Ting vigilantly. It crouched its body to prepare to dodge or attack at any moment. Wang Ting looked at it and knew that this little creature had survived in this forest for a long time. That was how it gained its cautious habit. At this moment, his speed suddenly increased, and he dashed towards a certain direction in the forest. The little creature was stunned for a moment. Then, it hastened its pace and ran through the forest on all fours. It looked like a wild animal. Wang Ting was just testing its limit. If not, with his speed, the little creature wouldn't be able to catch up. After some time, the little creature seemed to have found out Wang Ting's intention. It shouted, "Don't go there. It's dangerous." Wang Ting continued moving forward as if he didn't hear it. The little creature hesitated. Recalling some bad memories, fear appeared on its face. However, after a few seconds, it gritted its teeth and followed Wang Ting. Not long after, a peaceful lake appeared in front of them. Wang Ting stood at the side and turned around. The little creature was standing far away, not daring to get close to the lake. He threw his spiritual kinesis out and grabbed the little creature. Then, he threw it into the lake. Wang Teng took off his clothes and jumped into the cold water with a splash. The little creature popped its head out of the water and paddled towards the shore frantically. It looked frightened. "Wash yourself. If not, I'll throw you into the lake," Wang Teng said fiercely. The little creature froze. It looked at Wang Teng and said, "There are monsters here. It's dangerous." "We won't die," Wang Teng replied. He disregarded the little creature and started cleaning his body. He had stored some daily necessities in his space ring, so this was the time to use them. After cleaning up, he was still a young and handsome boy, but at this moment, just like what the little creature said, a black shadow suddenly appeared below Wang Teng. Along with a huge splash, a hideous and scary-looking giant fish leaped out of the water. It opened its mouth and wanted to swallow Wang Teng. The little creature widened his eyes in fear. "You're looking for death," Wang Teng scoffed. He opened his mouth and puffed out a black ball of light. It shot towards the giant fish. Dark wind bullet. When the ball of black light entered the fish's mouth, the black fish started expanding. Bang! Amidst a huge explosion, the giant fish's body erupted. Wang Teng exerted his spiritual kinesis and threw all the flesh and blood away. None of it stained the lake. The surroundings quietened down, and the lake resumed its calm entirely. All the restless creatures below shrunk back into their nest, shivering in fear and uneasiness. The little creature widened its eyes in surprise and stared at the person who was enjoying his bath. Chapter 494. Sorry. Dark Force *56 blank attribute *80. After killing the big black fish, 2 attribute bubbles dropped. They got swept over by Wang Teng's spiritual power, and he picked them up. Then, he turned and glanced at the little creature. "What are you doing? Hurry up and bathe." Yes. The little creature nodded its head in a daze. It took off its clothes awkwardly and started bathing. It finally understood that this mysterious big creature was extremely powerful. It didn't have to be scared of the powerful presences it had feared in the past. Wang Teng finished bathing quickly and walked to the shore. He used his fire force to dry his clothes before putting them on. The little creature climbed up too. However, it was naked. It planned to wear its torn and tattered beast skin clothes. Fart! Wang Teng's eyes suddenly widened in astonishment. This little creature was a girl. After bathing and washing off all the black things, her delicate and pretty little face was revealed. It was just a little pale. Wang Teng hurriedly closed his eyes. I'm sorry. The little creature didn't feel anything. She quickly wore her clothes and stared at Wang Teng with wide eyes. Wang Teng opened his eyes and sized up the little creature carefully. Her eyes were a little pointy, and her pupils were dark purple. Except for that, she looked no different from an ordinary human. Her hair was black. After washing, they dropped straight down behind her back. Wang Teng touched his chin. Honestly, this little creature was quite beautiful. Besides being a little malnourished, there was nothing wrong. Wang Teng coughed awkwardly and shook away the weird thoughts in his mind. He wasn't interested in a little kid. He had fed her for the past few days, so she had grown a little fatter. If not, she would have been skinnier. Wang Teng thought for a moment and decided to keep her by his side first. He wanted to know who she was. He grabbed the little creature's collar and flew into the sky. After confirming the direction, he flew out of the forest. The little creature wasn't afraid. She looked at the scenery flashing by below her curiously. "What's your name?" A calm voice sounded beside her ear. She looked up at Wang Teng and tilted her head before replying, Ziyi. Wang Teng lowered his head and looked into her purple pupils. He nodded his head in deep thought and asked, "Who gave you your name?" At first, he thought that this abandoned child didn't have a name. Unexpectedly, she had one. "My mother," Ziyi said. Wang Teng remained silent for a moment. He guessed that Ziyi's mother was probably dead. If not, she wouldn't have abandoned the young child. He changed the topic and asked, "Did your mother bring you to this forest?" "Yes." Ziyi nodded. Wang Teng stopped asking. Ziyi stopped talking too. She sized up her surroundings curiously. This was the first time she had left the vicinity of her home. After flying for half an hour, the two of them reached the edge of the forest. He scanned the ground with his spiritual sight and saw a few balls of lights below. There were 4 balls in total. Based on their intensity, 3 were at the 6-star soldier level while 1 was at the 7-star soldier level. Wang Teng's eyes turned sharp. He landed on the ground with Ziyi. These were 4 vampire dark apparitions, 2 males and 2 females. All of them had outstanding appearances. They were on their guard when they saw Wang Teng and Ziyi landing in front of them. Wang Teng wasn't stupid. This was the Darkland, so he must keep a low profile. He mustn't expose his human identity. Hence, he used dark force all this while. The 4 vampire dark apparitions didn't suspect him. They saw him landing from the sky without wings, so he was at least a 7-star soldier-level dark apparition. They thought he was a famous dark apparition, so they didn't dare to be rude. However, after seeing the 2 people's appearances, they kept their vigilance and turned arrogant instead. There was contempt in their eyes as they mocked, "Mixed blood." Mixed blood? Wang Teng was puzzled. He looked at himself and then at Ziyi. Were they referring to them? Did the dark apparitions misunderstand something? "Who are you?" Wang Teng asked. "Impudent. Where did you come from? Don't you know that you should bow down to purebloods?" One of the dark apparitions ordered angrily. Wang Teng frowned. F***K, are you asking me to kneel? Are these dark apparitions tired of living? The vampire dark apparitions noticed that he didn't move. There was even disdain in his eyes. They got offended and infuriated. "You're looking for death." 2 of the dark apparitions moved instantly and attacked him, shooting towards Wang Teng. Wang Teng was stunned once again. Are dark apparitions always so reckless? They just attacked him without finding out his true ability. He glanced at the other 2 dark apparitions. They were standing there calmly. They didn't seem afraid that Wang Teng would retaliate. Where did their sense of superiority come from? The 2 dark apparitions appeared in front of Wang Teng. The killing intent in their eyes turned stronger when they saw him ignoring them. No mercy could be seen from their expressions. Crimson light shimmered on their palms as they clawed at Wang Teng's heart. "Move!" Wang Teng suddenly retaliated. Bang! Bang! With 2 crisp slaps, the 2 dark apparitions were thrown 10 meters back. Bang! They slammed on the ground heavily, a few teeth dropping out of their mouths. Their pale and handsome faces were swollen, and they were shocked. "How dare you hit us?" The 2 dark apparitions were surprised and furious. They seemed to think that Wang Teng attacking them was something incredible. "Is there a problem with hitting you?" Wang Teng asked coldly. "Do you know what you're doing? How dare you attack a pureblood?" "There's no place for you in the abyss world." The other 2 dark apparitions who didn't attack him stared at Wang Teng sternly. The abyss world. Wang Teng wasn't frightened by their words. But he noticed a term they used and felt astounded. "Hey, are you listening to us?" The 4 dark apparitions were infuriated. No mixed blood ever dared to be so rude to them. Was this fellow mad? "Sigh, we're not of the same race, so we can't even communicate properly." Wang Teng sighed. He moved his body and disappeared instantly. The expressions of the 4 dark apparitions changed. They activated the dark force in their bodies. Black light shone around them, and they immediately created a defensive barrier. "Useless." Wang Teng snorted. Dark force flowed around him as he punched his fists out. Boom. The 4 dark apparitions were flabbergasted. They were thrown off their feet, vomiting a mouth of blood. "Who on earth are you?" They were frightened when they looked at Wang Teng again. The arrogance on their faces was gone. Chapter 495, Viscount Snow. There was an unwritten rule in the Abyss world. More accurately, it was a rule formed based on common practice. Purebloods were nobler than mixed bloods. In the Dark Apparition race, bloodline was the deciding factor. One's birth, talent, and status were all based on one's bloodline. To the purebloods, mixed bloods were lowly slaves, like the bugs in the mud. They could order them around however they wanted. As long as they didn't reach the general stage, the mixed bloods must always bow to the purebloods. Many purebloods kept mixed bloods as their food and slaves. The mixed bloods couldn't get resources, so they were unable to reach the general stage. They could only remain inferior to the purebloods and be their slaves. It was an unfair world for the mixed bloods. This was why the four dark apparitions became so conceited when they saw Wang Teng and Ziye's appearance. The two of them had the standard appearance of a mixed blood. They obviously thought that they could kill Wang Teng and Ziyi easily. But they didn't expect this mixed blood to be so powerful. He defeated them with a single punch. They only saw this strength in the 9-star soldier level or in Sirs with higher levels. This meant that the mixed blood was at least at the 9-star soldier level. But when was there such a powerful character among the mixed bloods? The four vampire dark apparitions exchanged glances with one another. Fear and disbelief floated into their eyes. They couldn't help but raise their doubts. Who on earth are you? Wang Teng glanced at them and stretched his hand. A huge rock flew over from afar and landed in front of them. He sat down on the rock and said indifferently, "From now on, I'll ask and you'll answer. Do you understand?" A hint of humiliation flashed past their eyes. The 7-star soldier-level vampire was the leader, so he opened his mouth and said, "Sir, since you possess such ability, you should be respected. I, Viscount Snow, am willing to apologize for my rashness and rudeness." Before he could finish his sentence, a golden shadow zoomed in on him and smashed into his handsome and pale face. Slap. The vampire's head pounded right into the ground. His butt was lifted high, and his limbs convulsed uncontrollably. You could tell how painful it was. The muscles on the faces of the other 3 vampires started twitching. They looked at the mixed blood in front of them, terrified. They didn't think that he would be so cruel. Ziye's eyes lit up. She looked at the vampire on the ground and then glanced at the golden brick in Wang Teng's hand. She looked as if she had discovered something new. The vampire pushed his hands on the ground and forcefully pulled his head out. His hair was in a mess, while blood flowed down his forehead and nose. He was in a disheveled state. Resentment and anger appeared in his eyes. "Don't you understand what I'm saying?" Wang Teng looked at him and asked. Viscount Snow cursed in his heart. This mixed blood wasn't going by the books. He had already admitted defeat and apologized, but he still beat him. He was a viscount of the vampire race. He had never felt so humiliated. Also, this bastard was ruthless. He slammed his head right into the ground. Utter humiliation. However, this mixed blood was different from those mixed bloods that groveled and acted like slaves in front of them. He dared to beat a pureblood with a title. He was either stupid or mad. No matter what he was, it was best not to anger him. Once he returned to his manor, he would have many ways to torture him to death. Hence, he nodded obediently and kept quiet. Wang Teng felt a little disappointed, but he didn't waste any time and went straight to the point. "Where are you from?" Cold sweat instantly appeared on the dark apparitions' foreheads. What did that disappointed look mean? The leader's eyes flickered. Just when he was about to reply to Wang Teng, the mixed blood fiddled with the golden brick in his hand and said, "Think before you answer. If I discover that you lied to me, I won't be so easygoing." Wolfhead Ridge, Greystone Town, the leader replied without hesitation. "Why did you come here?" Wang Teng continued asking. "To hunt." After a round of interrogation, the 4 vampires told Wang Teng the truth obediently. Wang Teng got to know a lot of information through them. At the same time, he understood what mixed bloods and purebloods were. All in all, it was troublesome. He could guess why Ziye's mother brought the young Ziyi to the forest to live. It must be due to this societal status that could never be changed. Wang Teng glanced at Ziyi. The latter looked back at him curiously. He retracted his gaze, a devilish red light shining in his eyes. Bewitch. The leader lost his conscience under Wang Teng's powerful spiritual power. Wang Teng asked a few more crucial questions. Most of what they said was true besides the fact that they didn't just come to hunt. He didn't ask anymore. The leader shuddered and woke up suddenly. He screamed frighteningly as if he had seen a ghost. How do you know the vampire race's talent? The other 3 vampires were stunned. They finally understood what had happened and stared at Wang Ting in astonishment. This mixed blood knew the talent unique to their race and even used it on them. Why does a dead person have to know the answer? Wang Ting glanced at them coldly. The vampires' expressions changed, and they ran away without any hesitation. If you kill us, all the purebloods will seek you as their enemies. They will chase you and kill you, the leader of the vampires shouted as he retreated furiously. We're the only ones here. Who will know that I'm the one who killed you? Wang Ting mocked, not moving. You, the leader, was speechless. He felt that what the mixed blood said was reasonable. There was no way of rebuttal. He didn't think that this man would really dare to kill purebloods. He must be a maniac. They hastened their pace, exerting all their energies as they ran away. They just wanted to escape from this maniac immediately. Suddenly, the 4 dark apparitions who were running away trembled. Blood spurted out from their temples. They turned rigid, and the expressions on their faces froze. They fell to the ground, dead. I prefer to kill any uncertainties. Wang Ting was indifferent. He raised his hand, and a ray of light flew into his palm. It was the shooting star spiral. Multiple attribute bubbles dropped on the ground. He picked them up. Dark Force *160 Dark Force *140 Spirit *80 Dark Force *145 Spirit *120 Bewitch *25 Wang Ting's gaze turned sharp. His body changed, and he instantly turned into another person. He said to Ziyi, "From now on, I'm Viscount Snow. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.